Welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo Sam Monson live on YouTube. We've got games to review. Preseason week 1. Coming at you from the Antonio Cromartie studio in part with Huggies. All brought to you by FanDuel. Stop making me laugh as we're going on air here.
I mean, it's not my fault. You're not a professional.
Got to get it together here. We have a monster show.
Yeah.
We're not going game by game, but we're going to do maybe position by position, all of our big instant reactions to preseason week 1.
Yeah. In part because, it's almost impossible to watch game by game in the NFL preseason these days.
It is. We had the usual login issues. We didn't have the same redundant song over and over again, though.
That's true.
That was
God
good.
for that. But Fernando Mendoza played football. Tate Simpson played football, and we already need to apologize, apparently.
So here's what I want. I want to start with this up top. Preface this. I want to stay in line. What?
I'm hearing sound come back again. Is that just is that coming through the IFB? Or you're?
Oh, I don't know.
It's not a big deal. I'm hearing you twice, which is less ideal than
that's
hearing
not
you
great.
once.
You don't want to do that.
No.
I want to stay in line today. There are some social media references that we must make here today, but I don't want to skew the analysis simply in reaction to the nonsense that happened in social media land this weekend. Like, we can't just be like, well, this idiot said this, and we have to respond to it. We have to at least acknowledge the idiots and do our usual PSA, like, hey, this dude is out of his mind. What's he doing?
What if we did a whole show that's just responding to idiots?
That might be Wednesday. We might need to do that, just responding to. So I don't want to skew it all based off of what Chase Daniel said or
Fine.
The football performances that are out there that are context-free, that normal people have no idea what they're looking at. Offense.
They were, though, two of my favorite, overreactions in recent memory, right? Like Chase Daniel demanding apologies to Dano, not even to himself.
Which is a full circle moment because Dan Orlovsky is a preseason apologizer.
Indeed.
If you remember, he apologized to Daniel Jones.
It's like you guys owe Dano an apology, not me. You owe Dano an apology, and then Kurt Benkert somehow getting even deeper into the weeds of like we saw one ball where Shedeur lost the handle on it and it floated and caused an interception. I have since forensically broken down the way he holds a football and determined it's been wrong all along.
I don't want to thwart anyone's football enthusiasm. We had real games for the first time. People want to react. We've been, everybody, the boat trips are over, swimming, the pool, the lake, and summer's done. It's football time. We need to have reactions, and I don't want to temper any of that from other people, football analysts, former QBs or not. But that's enough. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. You fixing Shedeur's grip, apologizing to Dano. We'll get into all of it.
Yeah. I mean, I just think there's a lack of critical thinking sometimes, It's like if you've watched the NFL for more than a year, and all of the people we've just spoken about have, right? You know better than that. Which leads me to suspect it has to be deliberate, right? Like it has to be rage bait. Chase Daniel can't be saying that because Chase Daniel doesn't remember more than one occasion where a player has looked good in preseason and been trash in the NFL. Chase Daniel has to understand that that's just a way to get engagement and annoy people like us. And it worked because here we are, annoyed.
Yeah. Very annoyed. Do you want to start with Ty Simpson?
Yeah, why not?
All right.
If
we could get the solo cam on Sam, he's going to apologize.
I don't need to apologize. I said it was a fine pick.
Oh, that's true. I mean, I did too. So we don't need to. No apologies coming from here.
No.
Other people need to apologize.
Here you go. Some people owe Dano an apology. Yeah.
See, here we go. We're doing what I don't want to do. Yeah. And you have to throw in, and it's not particularly close. And it's not particularly close. Ty Simpson's the best, and it's not even close. You thought Drew Allar looked good. You thought Fernando Mendoza looked good. You thought these rookies had a nice week 1. It's not even in the ballpark compared to Ty Simpson. Not even close.
No.
It's Ty Simpson.
Yeah.
Ty Simpson played. So, again, I want to separate objective analysis of Ty Simpson's debut with the asinine comment that people need to apologize because of Dan Orlovsky's pre-draft takes based off a 25-play sample in the preseason against base defenses where half of the dropbacks were rollouts. We need to separate those two things.
Yeah, well, to start, I don't think anybody would disagree that he looked good.
He looked good.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that part I endorse, right? Like, Ty Simpson looked good. I was impressed. He looked comfortable. It's funny, though, when you watch his video, his little 2-minute video of demanding apology, and he starts talking about, here's how Ty Simpson looked good. All of the stuff that he was saying was the comfort stuff, right? It's like the Zach Wilson thing all over again. It's like it wasn't so much the throws that he made or the difficulty degree or any of that stuff. It was just he looked efficient, calm, control. He looked like he was running an NFL offense, right? And the problem with that is I don't know there's a better example ever of that than Zach Wilson looking like he was absolutely ready to just marshal an NFL offense in a preseason game and then being Zach Wilson in the regular season. It's like, look, it doesn't mean that this is the problem with all this stuff is we said this before. If you're going to be Dak Prescott or Russell Wilson or Tony Romo or one of these guys that comes in and completely defies where they were drafted, what they're going to be, it will look like this, right? Like very quickly it looks like, oh, they are just better than people thought. But I don't know there's a way of telling those people from the guys that do the Zach Wilson thing and just have a good preseason and then get to the regular season and, it's different. I don't know that you can tell that from the preseason game in which they look good, which is the problem. Because if you want to overreact to all of them, you'll be wrong most of the time. Because I think most of the good preseason games are not followed by the guy being Dak Prescott.
Right.
Whereas if you want to go the other way and say, it's preseason, doesn't mean anything, then every now and again you're going to miss on a Tony Romo, Dak Prescott, or Russell Wilson.
So Ty Simpson's actual performance, I'm with you, right? I mean, we do this all the time. And look,
so the only sensible course is the one we tend to chart, which is, look, fair play, impressive preseason performance. It is, however, one preseason performance, and we've all seen that before. So, tap the brakes.
We can get into what Daniel Jeremiyah said, too, which actually Chase Daniel pushed back on a little bit, where he's talking about, maybe we'll talk about that later, remind me, about like what to look for in the preseason. Right. We'll talk about that
Traits
more.
Versus play or whatever.
More like philosophically. But in this game, I thought Ty Simpson looked good in his debut. Yeah. Stats are solid, 21 of 25 for 190, couple touchdowns. I thought that little angle route to Dean Connors was nice for one of those touchdowns. Another one was the screen, right, to Connors. Hit a couple downfield throws, nothing beyond 20 yards, but a couple downfield throws, which were nice. Someone in the chat asking what's wrong with rollouts. Nothing. But like 6 or 7 of his dropbacks were boot action. They're just generally easier, right? Like you're putting the quarterback on the move, you're using misdirection.
You're cutting half the read.
You're cutting half the field in half. What I liked about Simpson on the boot is he hit every level of the boot action. He hit he hit the crosser behind. He hit the first read in the flat. He hit second read, second man out in the flat. So I thought he did a good job. And if I remember correctly, I'd have to go check my notes on him at Bama. I thought that was something he did really well. And if you remember, our friend JT O'Sullivan did mention it's a little cliche, but JT's more nuanced than cliche, and said he would fit in a Shanahan type of system. I remember JT saying something to the effect of, I like his decision-making on the move. I like the decision-making when you put him out on boot action. And you saw some of that in this game.
And he's another guy, I think.
And it wasn't even close.
Yeah, no, not at all. He's another guy, I think, that's more athletic than maybe he's given credit for. Or not even so much that. It's just that nobody ever talks about it. And yet it's functionally quite a useful part of his game once you get to live ammo, right? The big thing, though, if you're going to throw a caveat beyond, hey, it's preseason and weird things happen in preseason, you would say he was almost he was basically protected almost perfectly. Like there were like 2 reps or something in there where there was any kind of pressure. So the offensive line in front of him was almost more impressive than he was in that he was barely touched. And when you give a quarterback that kind of platform, a lot of them will look good.
I've got more concerns about the Chiefs' defense from it.
Yeah,
I want to mention this later too. Like there are certain overreactions where it's like, all right, like the Cowboys' defense in the preseason. I'm cautiously optimistic that that's a thing. I'm cautiously pessimistic that a lot of the clips I'm seeing coming out of Chiefs camp are more concerning about their defense than anything else.
I mean, with all of these preseason performances, you always have the flip side of who are they going up against and how bad are they, right? And sometimes you don't know that, but and sometimes you're usually kind of talking about it on an individual level, or at least, oh, he was against the second team. But it's also like, how good is that overall defense they're playing? How good is that overall team? And there's a few instances of these quarterbacks where you're like, the defense they played might be terrible, like really bad. I mean, the Raiders, in that game, they were up to like 18 straight completions or whatever. They hadn't forced an incompletion or something as a team on a defense that on paper going into the season were like, they may suck to begin with, right? So that's starting to stack up but there's a few teams where this week you're like, okay, good performance, all impressive. However, that defense was making things pretty easy.
So Simpson, I thought it was a good debut for him. And I do want to get into the Chase Daniel, like we'll get into Mendoza and the rest of the quarterbacks. Let's get into that actual comment, and we do need to react to that because you just have to.
Yeah, okay, look, the idea that anybody deserves an apology for anything after a half of a preseason game is I don't even know how to.
I don't want to make our listeners sound dumb though, because like our listeners know this, right? But it's preseason. We get a few extra. We get some stragglers in here. I feel like we just have to get into it. Like there's a history here too. I told you
even if it was the regular season, it's such a small sample size of play that it's basically irrelevant.
Yes, I feel like we don't have to say it, but you do. The Rams did not draft Ty Simpson to have a good 21 of 25 preseason. That's not why they drafted him.
Right.
They didn't get their ROI. They did not get their return on investment. That's the first part. The second part is just because he did that doesn't mean that they hit on. Like, if you had reservations, if you were like, Dano, you're an idiot. Sorry, Dan. He's not a first-round player. I don't like how he handles pressure. I don't like how he, handles third and long. And if you had any reservations about Ty Simpson, which is fair, if you want to have reservations about Ty Simpson, you think he solved all those in week one?
I mean, remember,
in a controlled environment? Of course not.
The thing that Dano was taking pelts for was saying that Ty Simpson was QB1 in the draft, right? Mendoza looked good too. And even if he didn't, you wouldn't change that opinion based off like 25 preseason dropbacks. That's insane. And yet that's what Chase Daniel is suggesting you do, which is I've seen half of a preseason performance. You now owe Dano an apology for suggesting that because obviously he is QB1. That's his suggestion, which is utterly ludicrous. Again, even if it had been the regular season, we wouldn't know that. Like, the idea, how long have any of these people been watching football for?
We have not, long enough that they should know better. They should absolutely know better. But you and I are sitting here, the 2016 NFL draft class, Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, and Dak Prescott.
Right.
When was that declared? Like, who's the best quarterback from that draft class? It was Carson Wentz. I use this all the time. It was Dak after year one, Wentz after year two. Goff had the best year three.
Remember,
Dak had the best year four. Like, good luck figuring that out. You want Dak or Goff? Figure it out.
Or the 2018 draft class, right? That's a great one because the very first thing we saw from that draft class in terms of starting action. Remember, Baker Mayfield comes in. Tyrod Taylor somehow was the Browns quarterback, playing awfully. Baker comes in, and immediately a light switch goes on. It looks different. The Browns are fixed. Savior. Hallelujah. Right? And to be fair, Baker was pretty good for the Browns for a while. But, like, immediately it was like, oh, he's arrived. This looks different. They found their QB. He's the guy. And so if you were of the opinion that anybody other than Baker was QB1 in that draft, you would be taking victory laps. You're like, I've nailed it. You guys are morons.
Been there.
You all owe me an apology. Right? Meanwhile, several years down the line, whatever you think about who QB1 in that draft is, it isn't Baker, right? At this point. It's Josh Allen, or it's Lamar Jackson, or now maybe it's Sam Darnold.
Now Sam Darnold's
it's
an
not
MVP,
Baker, right? Like
Super
it's
Bowl,
unquestionably not Baker. Now he's still fine, and maybe he's got really, really good in him. But you could it's the same thing, right? After a half of football, you would be saying, "Oh, I nailed it. We had Baker QB1, and we were right, and you're wrong, and you owe me an apology." And now, several years down the line, unquestionably that's wrong, right? We know this. Like, what are you doing?
I had someone else in NFL media reach out to me and ask the same question. Like, what's he doing? Like, what is he doing?
But this is my point.
Why?
It has to be rage bait. There's no way he's that dumb.
I don't think that's going to play long term. I don't think so. I don't. And you mentioned this to me off air. Like, in this AI driven world, I think people are going to. First off, this entire generation loves authentic more than anyone else, and like the human connection and everything. And AI's coming in, and I don't think people want rage bait. I don't think in the next 10 years people are going to want rage bait. Now I know Chase Daniel's got ESPN jobs and all these different things that are opened up. I just don't know if it's going to play long term. And by the way, I don't think the Dan thing.
I'd be more confident of that if we hadn't just watched 15 years of it from ESPN.
I know. I get it.
I mean, I understand they're moving away from it intentionally, but still.
Orlovsky's thing that I referenced, just people, I think we need this reminder every preseason. Daniel Jones had the best statistical preseason you will ever see for a rookie quarterback. He was 29 of 34. And we are nothing if not super consistent. We were still sitting here saying, I don't know. I mean, what do we do? It's preseason. He was 29 of 34 for like 400-something yards. It was unbelievable. He was unstoppable. And Orlovsky had reservations about Daniel Jones coming out of the draft. He saw one game, or maybe the entire preseason. At some point, I never really dug it up, but I know this happened, right? He apologized, like one of those, sorry, I wasn't familiar with your game. Like I completely missed it. You look so much better than I thought you would. After the preseason.
Yeah.
And listen, and Daniel Jones, I understand he just had a great 9-game run last year. I completely understand it before he got hurt. But since 2019, Daniel Jones has pretty much been exactly what I think Orlovsky thought he would be. Maybe slightly better than what we thought he would be. Manages the game for the most part. Runs the offense. He's pretty athletic and can run a little bit. He's never been great outside of a 9-game sample with the Colts, which I think was going to regress anyway. Right. I mean, like Dan, you didn't need to apologize in 2019. And Chase, you don't need to call for apologies here in 2026 for Ty Simpson. It's absurd.
It's a fascinating aspect of Dano's personality in that, to his credit, he is very willing to admit when he was wrong and, say, I was wrong on this thing, that something else is different. However, he's so willing to do that I feel like he goes too far the other way, which is after like 3 reps of evidence go, you know what, I had this wrong. The opposite is true. Like, no, Dano,
Justin Fields.
You were okay. Just give it a little bit of time to play out before you decide whether you were wrong or right.
He was right about Justin Fields. He was right about Daniel. Like the reservations he had about both of those players have proven to be true.
Like
and he backed off on both of them.
And this is the thing. I think sometimes there are people that are like, Sam and Steve never say they're wrong. It's like, no, we're perfectly willing to admit when we're wrong. We're just not willing to say it after 5 reps. It's like, you got to let these things play out, right? We're now 2 years into his career, and I have now reached the point where I have no idea if I'm right or wrong about Brian Thomas Jr., right? I was dead wrong after year 1. I was dead right after year 2, and now I don't know.
What are we going to do?
We've got to keep letting it play out. The point is, it's crazy to sort of yo-yo back and forth after like a game. Like, you've got to let, sample size build up for you to actually determine things.
There's also a thing that we're not going to fall into, I don't think. There's some truth in it, but I think some of the former quarterbacks fall into a pattern of, because they were quarterbacks. The situation, the coaching, that's the biggest differentiator.
Yeah.
And all the quarterbacks are destined to succeed, right? They're a glass half full.
Which is only getting muddied more with the Darnolds of the world being like, oh, you see?
Yeah.
He was always that guy.
I mean, and it goes to my Daniel Jeremiyah question, like, well, we're scouting traits, and like, well, what are traits? Do they ever change? Did Darnold always have the traits? Was he always the same player? But, the Jets and the Panthers, everybody screwed him over until he met Shanahan, right? I mean, it's a lot of the former QBs fall into this. Well, the quarterback's at the mercy of his situation, and if things go poorly, the quarterback didn't change, the situation changed. And so, there were 30 great quarterbacks in the NFL instead of 4. And so that's where the analysis tends to lean on it's never the quarterback's fault. It's the coaching, it's the situation, and I think you just got to be careful with that. You can't have 20 top 10 quarterbacks. You just can't. You can't have 20 guys that are the 10 best at the position. And that's what you hear all the time. While there is truth in, you put a guy in the right situation and things change. But again, I keep coming back to Baker Mayfield. Like, he's got almost an identical record between the Browns and the Bucs.
Right.
In QB record, I think is directionally good over time. It's not, I mean, the stats are a little bit better, but they're very, like, same yards per attempt, same a lot of other things. But the perception is that Baker was, like, salvaged from the abyss that was Cleveland. And, like, again, maybe there's some truth in that, but he wasn't that, like, he had similar results in Cleveland versus Tampa Bay, including one playoff win, 1-1, 1-2 in the play, whatever it was. So anyway, all right, good start. The Ty Simpson. I won't spend all day responding to social media people.
Oh, we haven't even gotten to Benkert yet.
We haven't even gotten to the Browns quarterback situation. Ty Simpson looked good.
Oh yeah. So the final point
Apologies on hold.
The final point I wanted to make about the Ty Simpson thing is this was a glimpse at the argument for drafting him. Right? You can't say, they nailed it. Job decision, resolved. That was clearly the right call. Somebody else made the point that whether you basically can't determine that until they win a Super Bowl or not this year, right? Like that's part of the conditioning. Point is, if he's the QB of the future, that's the thing they're kind of riding on, right? Like if we create an orderly line of succession at the game's most important position, that is worth more than the player we could have drafted at 13 overall, whether that was Mekhi Lemon, whether that was an offensive lineman for next year, blah, blah, blah. This was at least a glimpse of, look, if they got it right, this is what it would look like. Yeah. And that's the point. That's why you take the guy.
Let me take it a little bit further about the Ty Simpson thing, though. When Orlovsky came out and said, watch the first 8 games, watch the tape, Simpson was better. It's like, right. Yeah, we agree. He looked so good the first half of the season. The question is, and the question when he sat down with every NFL team, why did it fall apart? Did you get hurt? Did you just run up against Georgia a couple times and Oklahoma? Did you just face better defenses? Why were you missing easy throws? And why did it look way worse in the second half? Of course, I have a text message out there to our friend Mike Renner, probably mid to late October, where I said something to the effect of it's Ty Simpson and Dante Moore, as in those are the 2 top 10 quarterbacks. But this is just the ebbs and flows of evaluation and play when you're talking about the draft. There was a point in the season where Ty Simpson, it looked to me like Ty Simpson and Dante Moore were the clear top 10s. Meanwhile, Mendoza keeps going up, 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 and Simpson goes down, 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 down. And it's like, okay, now we have a second half of a season of evidence. That was in a full college football season last year. Never mind one preseason game right now.
Because that's the other side of this, is that, yes, while Ty Simpson fell away, even if you want to explain the whole thing away through injuries, also the second half of the season was when the Mendoza train really kicked into full gear, and he got better and better and better, and against better and better and better opposition. Like his whole kind of legacy began in that second half of the season at the same time as Simpson's fell apart.
Right.
But coincidentally, you know what I mean? They weren't related. It's just that while one guy drifted away, even if you want to explain it away through injuries, the other guy then took off at the same time. That's part of this as well. Let's talk about Mendoza, because he looked good too.
Mendoza did look good. That was days ago when Mendoza makes his debut. First thing that stood out to me, I saw somebody in the chat mention too, he was throwing laser beams. I think we never really doubted his arm strength, but we saw he's got a really good arm. I think he's got a tight spiral and the whole thing, good spin rate.
Yeah.
Those couple dig routes that he threw were absolute lasers.
I think impressive. This did not necessarily stand out from his college tape, but then when you start seeing him in person or at the combine or whatever, you're like, he really is kind of a huge human being. He's big, he's strong, he's got an arm. All of the physical traits that maybe you don't see because of his sort of demeanor as, big goofy, right? The fact that he's like that, I think you sort of assume, well, if Kirk Cousins is like that, he's like Kirk Cousins, therefore he's a little slight, doesn't have a cannon for an arm. But actually, he's like, what if you gave Kirk Cousins elite physical tools? It's that personality, but with an absolute cannon, plus he's 236, plus he's 6'5", or whatever he is. He's a massive human being. And ironically, going from one to the other, given where Kirk Cousins is at this point of his career physically, it's kind of wild. Every time he went out there and launched one of those missiles, I was like, can you imagine being a wide receiver in camp, going from one guy to the next? One rep is Cousins throwing you a ball, the next one is Mendoza. That must mess with your calibration. I always thought that with, the Bills or whatever, going from Josh Allen to Jake Fromm. It's this is a different world. I need to recalibrate every rep depending on who the quarterback is.
It reminded me of the Senior Bowl where Josh Allen was down there. I think Cody Kessler was on his team.
Right.
There was 4 quarterbacks that all had perfect different tiers of arm strength from Kessler to Josh Allen.
Seriously, as a receiver, just running basic, that must be, it's like a changeup in baseball, right? We're taking 30 miles an hour off the pitch here. baseball
usually about drop 10 to 12.
Whatever. Baseball pitchers are doing that as a deliberate scheme to get you out, right?
Yeah.
To make you miss the football, and yet that's happening to you as a receiver just based off who the quarterback is.
So I thought the arm looked good. I thought a couple of them were second reads, worked through his reads, got backside. I forgot to go back and look at the one that he missed in the end zone, the corner route. Somebody said the receiver slowed down just a little bit on the route, which is possible. I didn't go back and confirm that. I don't know if you're checking quickly. The one thing I think to keep an eye on, and this goes back to I think what Daniel Jeremiah's point was when he was essentially saying, like, don't worry about performances as in stats, which is a very clear, like, obviously not obviously, some, but don't look at stat lines. Look at traits and how a guy plays. The things that came up, I thought Mendoza, first off, not protected himself whatsoever.
Yeah.
I know Josh Allen gets away with that. Most people don't. He had to step up in the pocket a few times, or dropped his eyes. I don't want to say dropped his eyes, but he had to maneuver the pocket, and he had different results. One time he threw it away, he had a scramble, and there was a sack in there. Those few times, you need more of those like 5-yard scrambles where he protects himself, rather than the throwaway of the sack. The sack was the one I know you brought up a lot of times on his college tape, though.
Yeah, I do think you could see that. I think that's still a work in progress, right? This just the feel he has for pressure and how he reacts to the pressure. And when I say that, I don't mean pressure comes, he panics, throws an ill-advised pass, and it's an interception, right? I think that's generally how you kind of picture quarterbacks dealing with pressure. Mendoza's thing with pressure is like, okay, the pocket is collapsing. What is his immediate instinctive reaction to dealing with that? And it tends to be to back up and try and move laterally somewhere, right? To sort of escape the pocket backwards and sideways. And as much as Mendoza is a good athlete and a threat to run, he's not dynamic in that way, right? Like, he's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Michael Vick. He's not a guy that has that immediate quick twitch elusiveness that lets him mess around like that. When he backs up, he gets into trouble, and that can cause some problems. And there was one rep I thought that was good here because it seemed like that instinct kicked in. He started to move backwards and then almost checked himself and threw the ball away.
Yeah.
That's good, because that, I think, is a much better thing to do with it than trying to escape out the back end of a pocket that you're probably not going to be able to achieve. So I think that will be the biggest thing he needs to work on is let's try and step up in the pocket, not back. Let's try and stay in that pocket. If it's collapsing, let's get rid of the football. And then the other thing is, the thing you mentioned is going to be interesting. Does he try and protect himself? And if not, will that be a problem? Because he is in the Daniel Jones, Jackson Dart, Josh Allen spectrum of no self-preservation. But he's bigger than two of those three guys, right? And that, I don't know. We talk all the time about how injuries can often be a playing style thing rather than a size and strength thing, but not always. Like Josh Allen, you would say, survives because there's something about him that is more durable than most other quarterbacks.
I do think if Josh Allen was 210 pounds, I don't think
it would be. It feels like it would be a problem, right?
But the counter argument for me was, I think Ben Roethlisberger, monster. He's huge.
Yeah,
took a lot of hits. You would say he was durable, as in he played a lot of games and played football really well for a long time. He was always kind of nicked up, though. He was always nicked up. And then Cam Newton, probably the closest proxy to Josh Allen as far as, Cam Newton was running downhill power scheme and dropping his shoulder and instilling impact on the defender. And all of a sudden, the injuries just caught up.
I mean, the counter-argument...
It happened quickly.
Yeah, the counter-argument is more Anthony Richardson, which is, look, if
that is another,
sometimes being big doesn't mean you're going to survive. The point being, we're going to find out based off the way he plays pretty quickly because he doesn't, he's trying to truck people still. And if you can do that, fine. If you can't, we're going to know about it sooner rather than later, and you're going to need to change because... that's the thing with Daniel Jones. Running is a big part of his game, and he doesn't necessarily protect himself when he runs. You're like, well, that, what do you do with that? Because
Daniel Jones has had a lot of injury issues.
Yeah,
and again, it's not all from hits. Obviously, there's been ACLs and Achilles and the whole thing. There is probably something to it, but
it's a question you need to pose with every one of these quarterbacks that is athletic enough for running to be a part of his game, right? Like, you didn't have to deal with this back in the day where most quarterbacks were never, like, it just was never a factor, right? They were so unathletic that the only time they ever ran anywhere was when the pocket opened up in front of them, and it's like, oh, there's 15 free yards here that I'm going to walk into before falling down before anybody hits me. Now, most quarterbacks are athletic enough that they can be in some way, shape, or form a part of the run game, and then so you then have this balancing act with every single one of them, which is, well, okay, we want to use you in this way, but every one of those runs exposes you to a hit. How many do we want to do? How much can you try and protect yourself? And it's different for every quarterback because some of them are built out of granite, some of them are built out of sugar glass.
So that was way back, Thursday night?
Yeah,
that was kicking off this weekend of preseason. So Mendoza looked pretty good. We did not get to see Carson back.
No.
We'll talk about Jeremiyah Love, though, with the Cardinals and the fact that their first 4 picks are all injured.
First 4?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, because it's Love, Basantis, Beck, and then Caleb Proctor, defensive tackle.
Got injured.
Are all injured right now in Arizona.
But
it
doesn't matter because Reggie Virgil was getting like 1 million targets.
Yeah, Reggie.
Yeah.
At the same time, or that night, when Fernando Mendoza is having his really nice debut, we saw Drew Allar make his NFL debut for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yes.
And I understand people, it's not his regular season NFL debut, but it's the first time on an NFL field.
That's
ball.
That's a messy semantics thing that comes up every preseason, where the broadcasts tend to take the approach of let's pretend there's no distinction. It's like they do this in the postseason too.
You have a preseason debut and
you don't really though. They just act like they just do it twice and act like it's the same thing. Same with the postseason. They're like, this is but they don't count.
Nobody
counts those records.
Debut, regular season debut,
but they don't. They just say his debut.
It's implied.
Caught a touchdown on his debut. It's like, yeah, but did he?
It's implied. We know it doesn't go to the real stats. But Drew Allar, first pass goes for 74 yards.
Yeah. And honestly, maybe the more impressive performer in the day for Pittsburgh when it comes to rookies was Caden Weegan. Is that how we're saying this guy's name? Who was Thor's favorite prospect in the draft. We do that favorite prospect video every year. We get 30-odd people to just give us 60 seconds on their favorite prospect. Caden Weegan was Thor's favorite prospect.
He kicked off the video.
Yeah.
He was number 1 on the prospect video.
Iowa Hawkeyes receiver, small of stature, lightning quick, and another guy where you're like, that was impressive. I literally sat up and went, wow, watching him make that play. Caught like a slant, then just shot himself straight through a gap, kept on rumbling. Looked really good doing that. Showed some serious speed. And it's another guy where you're like, Iowa couldn't find a way of getting this guy the ball more. Like, what are we doing? It's not like Iowa generally is over blessed with an abundance of receiving talent. And apparently had this guy and was like, we don't need to get him the football much.
He looked fast. He looked very fast.
And dynamic.
That was eye-popping.
Yeah.
So 74-yard throw. This is a good example of the stats, maybe not backing up.
So
That was a good throw, but not 74 yards worth.
It was an accurate throw. It was on the money. That's good. But it's of limited impact. But 50% of his overall box score then becomes that play, basically.
So I was impressed by Allar overall. When I went back and rewatched it, I was maybe less impressed, I think, than the first watch. But the most important thing for me, Allar's history. Cannon for an arm, we knew that. Not just field flipping 60-plus yarders, but overall zip outside the numbers. Uneven play at Penn State. Mike McCarthy comes in, the QB whisperer, helped develop Joe Montana, the whole thing.
I've heard that.
They always, remember the Green Bay history, they change quarterbacks, shotgun footwork. I think they go left foot up instead of right, whatever they do. They just do it differently. And there was some rhythm to Allar's game. I thought that was pretty good. There were other times I thought it looked like he was just kind of reading the wrong side of the field, through, I don't want to use the term hospital ball, but through I'd say an ill-advised flat route, into a squat corner. There was some misses in there. I'm nitpicking.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought it was really good for a guy that had that uneven career at Penn State. And the most impressive thing for me, I think, was the last touch. He had 2 touchdowns, or should have been touchdowns. One throw into the flat that was dropped that should have been a touchdown, and then one throw into the flat that was a touchdown. I thought the touch that he showed on those short passes was really impressive, and I think that's where he kind of lost it at times throughout his Penn State career. So good start for Drew Allar, and send your apology letters to all those Drew Allar believers.
And the rushing touchdowns were a 3-touchdown day for Drew Allar. But the most impressive thing I think was it wasn't chaotic, scattershot, all over the place, inconsistent, like the stuff that you would say typified his Penn State career. It was generally efficient, pretty accurate, in reasonably good shape. Now, the caveat we brought up on the time was like that Green Bay defense. Read the box score for all of the quarterbacks for Pittsburgh. Will Howard 7 of 9 for 86 yards. Mason Rudolph 10 of 11 for 93 yards, and then Drew Allar 10 of 13 for 153 and 2 touchdowns. Like Green Bay was not stopping anything. They weren't even making it difficult for anybody. So on the one hand, yes, Drew Allar looked very good. On the other hand, all of the Steelers quarterbacks had their way with that defense, and you kind of have to ask what was going on with that Green Bay defense, because just watch the plays. They're not even challenging receivers.
I know people ask you, like, why are you so slow to come off of a take or whatever it may be? Because we have a memory. Do you remember the 2021 preseason when Jamar Chase couldn't catch a football and we spent probably too much time? There were even people who were like, guys, you're spending too much time on his drops, analyzing his drops. We were talking about the football. The college football has stripes. The NFL football doesn't. It's a little bit bigger. And he couldn't catch the ball in the preseason. Then he was fine. Absolutely fine.
Sample size is a thing, and preseason isn't a large enough sample size to determine anything. So the safer thing to do would be to say nothing that can happen in preseason has any bearing whatsoever on football going forward. I'm not even going to watch it, right? You would probably be more accurate in your takes if you did that than if you went the opposite direction, when I'm going to watch every rep and overreact to everything I see based off this incredibly small sample size against a random level of opponent who could be first string or fourth string, and I'm not going to factor that in when I'm just making random determinations. And then you get the fact that, we've all seen preseasons where it's gone the other direction. So even if it was the regular season, I wouldn't be making I would be waiting to come off a take, because we've all seen sample size things play out in the NFL. Like, guys have good weeks, guys have bad weeks. Doesn't mean they're good or bad until you see it stacked one after another for a while.
And NFL Week 1 is the best. Like the Raiders,
right.
The Raiders looked really good in Week 1. They beat the Patriots handily last year.
NFL Week 1 as a data point means significantly more than the preseason, and yet it's the most screwy NFL regular season data point you can possibly come up with, and lies to you all the time, right? I don't understand people that put that much stock into preseason.
But it's so fun. It's so fun.
That being said, we talked about some of the rookies that looked really good. Chad has brought it up a couple of times, and I wanted to bring it up as well. One non-rookie who played and looked terrible is Cam Ward. And that was a sort of surprising one, because generally the discussion has been positive for the Titans, for Cam Ward, for everything, and he looked awful.
I thought Cam Ward, and I'll say this.
5 for 12 for 57 yards, and one of the worst turnover-worthy plays you're going to see.
That's where, me being at practice, seeing 2 of the worst turnover-worthy plays from Cam Ward in a while as well. I'm like stacking those things.
It's like Will Levis was teaching him or something.
Yeah, it was
what I would do here
concerning.
Yeah.
That part was concerning. Cam Ward vacating backwards through the pocket and trying to throw through contact and fumbling near the goal line. It was a very, very bad play.
I will say, if you go back to his college Miami tape, that was always a tightrope that he was walking, right? He was doing that all the time and generally found a way of getting away with it in college. And so, number one, he had a ton of big plays to offset those, right? So even if that was a problem, you'd be like, well, yeah, but look, he makes all these massive plays, so we can live with that. But generally speaking, he found a way of getting away with it. And even at the time, we were like, look, there's a fine line between genius and lunatic, and he seems to have found the right side of that line. Well, maybe he can't at the NFL level, or maybe he just got lucky for a while. Remember, Caleb Williams, for the first couple of years of his college career, was like the Midas touch, could do no wrong, was Mahomesian. Everything he does, he just finds a way of getting it there. And then the final year, all of those plays got picked off. I mean, sometimes it just goes your way, and sometimes it doesn't, right? Cam Ward is, I think, the point is, stylistically, I think he will be that type of quarterback where he's going to try those things, and sometimes they're going to work in his favor, and when they don't, it's going to be really bad.
And I mentioned with Cam Ward at the time, I described it as, well, he had amnesia. Like he didn't let them compound. Right?
Yeah.
And when he made those bad plays, he kept his aggressiveness and offset them with the big plays that you were mentioning. That was part of the problem with Will Levis, the way he played at the NFL level.
There were no big plays offsetting.
Right? Early in his career, he threw some nice downfield throws, but you started to lose some of those. And Levis was only a meme generator, but not a big play generator.
That's
right?
the thing. Levis, it wasn't even like the frequency of those meme plays wasn't even that bad. He basically had one catastrophe a week, which admittedly is more than you would like to have for your quarterback. But if you just bucket them as turnover worthy, like he actually didn't have a particularly bad turnover worthy play rate. It's just that A, he wasn't making any big plays to offset the ones that he did make, and B, the ones he was making were like cartoon-like.
They were also at inopportune times.
Sure,
I mean, it was like they lost a game because he
But that's the thing.
Flung
it's
the ball
like
up late for a pick six. Or
you
whatever.
you almost needed to be like, okay, you've got a turnover-worthy play, and you've got a Wile E. Coyote like farcical Looney Tunes thing that you just did. Those
in a one-score game in the second half.
These
right?
can't be the same. Like I need a separate category for what you're doing because it's so ridiculous.
And we did. He became a meme. So that was concerning for Cam Ward. I think Carnell Tate was a little concerning.
Yeah, I didn't
as
like
well.
his. I mean, look, it's how many reps did he play?
It was only
not
a
many.
few.
But I did almost send you this text message. I was like, why has Carnell Tate forgotten how to use his hands during a route? It's like he just ran into contact and got like stoned. You're like,
getting
dude,
knocked off his route,
which I thought he was good at as a prospect. Like he was really good at shedding contact and avoiding that. And you're like, dude, wait.
And then the one thing that I loved about him was his footwork at the top of routes. And he runs this dig route where he looked like he forgot what he was running in the middle of it. It was a little strange from Carnell Tate.
I thought that was intentional, but it did take a long time to do.
The timing was just off on everything.
Like I think. Because I think, again, the root cause, the original sin on that route, I think, again, was getting stuck on contact. And then he tried to give him the false step before breaking in. And he did separate. Problem is it was so late in the play, it's like, I don't know that can work.
Right. That's like, Senior Bowl separation.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have 4.5 seconds to get open. You got to get open quick.
I think the concern was, of the reps that he ran, half of them were just like getting stuck on contact in a way that he didn't do in college. That was a little worrying.
So I'd put... If you're going to do stock down, I would go stock down a little bit on Cam Ward at the beginning here and Carnell Tate.
Players back to the other direction. So Skattebo played and looked just like Skattebo again. This is one where I'm willing to confirm my priors. I said that if there was ever a player who would come back and not for 1 second be like have the injury lingering in the back of his head, it would be Skattebo. Skattebo's going to come back and assume that he's made out of granite again and not even think about the possibility of injury. And that's exactly what he looked like. He was just out there like nothing had changed. Just like a Tasmanian devil of violence and running moves and just stringing stuff back together. He only had like 4 carries or whatever, but all 4 of them looked good.
On a day in which Tyrone Tracy completely whiffs on a block.
Now, here's a thing where, we talk about overreacting to preseason. This is one where...
This is significant.
Like, we're talking a total of 5 plays now, right?
Yeah.
4 runs from Skattebo and 1 pass pro rep from Tyrone Tracy may genuinely swing the balance of playing time in that backfield, right? And honestly, you might not even need these 4 plays. It might just be this one that would do that. But the worst thing you can do as a running back, particularly for certain types of coaches, is have a goof in pass protection that gets the quarterback hurt, right? Like gets him injured or gets him hit. And honestly, the second part is not necessarily within your control. Like the goof is on its own, and then what happens after that is not really you don't really have control over that. Tyrone Tracy looked like he was basically doing check release, didn't really bother with the check part of it, and then preseason being what it is, maybe he thought it's preseason, nobody's blitzing.
It wasn't even that disguised. I mean, it wasn't.
But that's the thing. Maybe he was just like, it's preseason, nobody's blitzing, and didn't really check. But it's Flores, so of course you're blitzing. Flores just sends a blitz. Tyrone Tracy realized too late there was a blitz, couldn't get back in time to pick it up, and a free runner just had an absolute kill shot on Jackson Dart and buried him. And yeah, that's about as bad as it gets from a pass pro rep from your running back, because that's the like Dart is never looking in that direction because he thinks that guy's picked up, right? Guy was not picked up.
It's not a lack of pocket awareness or anything like that.
And it's the worst type because it's your backside that you are convinced
it's your blind side, isn't it?
Your blind side on the other side,
looking
right?
To the left.
But it's your blind side that you are convinced is picked up, right? So it's the worst type of hit because you're 100% convinced that's not coming. And then when it does arrive, you just get blasted because you don't have any idea. So Tracy, I would imagine, gets himself very firmly put in the doghouse. Meanwhile, Skattebo is back and looking like Skattebo. So I think that backfield is now Skattebo's to deal with.
Now, we don't have all the other practice reps. We have no idea if this is like a massive anomaly.
It doesn't really matter, though. Like that
camp.
One rep, I think, is the kind that will put a running back in the doghouse.
I think you're right. It's pretty significant. You stick with the rundown here. We still have quarterbacks to talk about.
Rundown.
And then we'll get into the rest of the offense. Do you want to talk FanDuel first? Let's do that.
Let's.
Check the mic, brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, you think you know who's hitting a homer today? Well, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. Imagine if I was pitching, you just take whoever's facing me.
Yeah.
Just to list players from the lineup opposite me.
Mm-hmm.
Joining the action's easy. Just make your free pick on who's hitting a home run in their game, and if you're right, you get a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. You get nothing to lose and a lot to gain. And don't forget, you can make a free pick every day during the MLB season. You just got to, play it like a game. Which hitters are hot, where they playing. They playing in Colorado, who's pitching against them. It's just another reason why FanDuel is the home for home runs. So you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com/33rd. That's FanDuel.com/33rd to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, the official partner of the MLB. Must be 21 plus in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kids Star Casino, 18 plus in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-MY-RESET. Call 1-888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY. Text to HOPE-NY in New York or call 877-770-7867 in Louisiana. All right, let's talk Browns quarterback.
Yeah. Another reason, by the way, big picture, why oftentimes quarterbacks can look good in the preseason is the general vanilla-ness of the defenses across the board, unless you're facing Flores. But this world where, defenses are disguising more than they've ever disguised in the past in the regular season.
That's their base.
It's becoming complex. Becoming the baseline is becoming more complex than it's ever been. Preseason teams, it's not complete. All I'm running is cover two, but generally preseason is still significantly more middle of the road, vanilla, easy to decipher, and so quarterbacks are going to look better.
I was going to save the Malachi Fields discussion for when we talk a little bit about rookie receivers, but Dart made an awesome throw to Fields after he got hurt and came back.
He did. Good
All
catch.
right, or got checked out and came back. Okay,
and he's confused by that.
Is that what he said? I didn't.
He basically said, "I'm confused by the fact that every time I take a hit, I seem to find my way in the blue medical tent. What's with that?" You're like, "Have you looked at the hits you're taking? Okay, this one wasn't on you, right?"
It's confusing.
But point me to the hit you took where you're like, "That was ridiculous. Why was I getting checked out after that?" You are getting hit by freight trains repeatedly. Of course they're checking you out. Even this one, you got blasted. You then stayed on the ground in a fetal curl, being like, "Ugh." Of course they looked at you. It's not guy hitting the head a lot is confused as to why, Jesus. Anyway, what were we talking about?
Deshaun Watson got the start.
Yes, he did.
And played the whole first half. Shedeur Sanders is going to get the start in the second game. This was the plan.
Yep.
Todd Monken and the defense or the offense, and that was the plan.
Yeah.
Going in. What were your thoughts on Deshaun Watson and then what we saw from Shedeur Sanders?
I didn't think Deshaun Watson looked particularly good at all. I thought his biggest problem is what I sent to you yesterday, which is that his internal clock is now a sundial. And it's just, the guy, his average time to throw was 3 seconds, which is generally where his is in his career. But his average depth of target was under 4. It's you're not How can you possibly hold the ball this long without going anywhere with it?
Yeah, I think I just have such low expectations for him right now.
The worst. And this is the thing. So I'm now starting to believe that Todd Monken is taking his marching orders when it comes to the quarterback position from somewhere above him, because the things that he's saying do not bear any resemblance to what we're witnessing in front of us, right? I mean, look, did Deshaun Watson do anything catastrophically wrong with the ball? Not really. But the fact that they started the game with 3 straight runs to Quinshon Judkins. When your quarterback is trying to ease his way back in, you need to see what you have in him. And instead they're like, nah, I don't even want to put the ball in his hands. I'm not disgusted with what I'm seeing.
I wouldn't characterize it as that.
I would, because the rest of the game was the same thing. The ball's not getting pushed anywhere. Meanwhile, the second Shedeur Sanders came in, I think it was his very first drop back, took a shot deep down the field. They're like, all right, Shedeur may be no better than Deshaun Watson. And you may get, he's going to lose the handle on a football, airmail one, oops, interception. But at least the second he gets out there, he's willing to try and go somewhere with it, and be aggressive with the ball and try and make a positive play somewhere. And actually, they have receivers now. The 3, they're all young, but Casey Concepcion, Denzel Boston, and Isaiah Bond all look like they can be useful players to this team. So a guy with Deshaun Watson dropping back, sitting there in the pocket for 8 years, and then panicking under pressure is not doing anything for those guys. So I see no purpose whatsoever in playing Deshaun Watson. Put Shedeur Sanders out there, see if he can win the backup job for next year, and maybe he's aggressive enough to see if these receivers are good.
All right, here's my objective view on Watson, because I don't completely disagree. I don't think it felt that bad until you rewatch it and you just kind of stack it up. And that's where I think taking the number that you pulled out, A.dot's tiny, really small, really low, and time to throw is super high. It's a bad combination. That's what Fields did a lot through his career, times with Pittsburgh and with the Jets. And it's there's no big play potential here. And Watson, the very first pass, he's got a quick out and he just turns it down and drops his eyes.
Right.
When he was at his best, half a decade ago, I mean, from Clemson to Houston, he did get rid of the ball quickly on a bunch of plays. And then other plays, if it wasn't there, then he would have the outside the pocket magic. And I think it was that combination. That's why Watson had really successful first 3 or 4 years in the NFL. Now he just doesn't. Everything is late or he's just not seeing it. And this was the issue with the Browns every time he's played with the Browns, basically. I'll never forget the 4th and 2 where Amari Cooper is sitting there. And I'm an anti-screenshot on a pass play guy. But I had to pull it out because I knew it was part of the read and the progression. And Amari Cooper's standing there in the middle of the field like this, no one in the shot, and Watson's dropping his eyes trying to run and taking a sack on 4th and 2. Now the strip sack on this one, I don't know if that was avoidable. He gets strip sacked on 4th down again, and right tackle gets whooped. There was a couple plays they had no chance because of the pass rush. The blocking wasn't great. I wouldn't put I don't know what his EPA ended up being, but the strip sack probably hurt him a little bit, Watson. And but he also had a 40-yard screen in there that probably balanced it out. Don't care.
The reason I'm wondering about the Monken thing is because he's not even being consistent with his own comments about the quarterback situation. Going into this game, he was talking about wanting to see the quarterbacks let it rip, quote, right? And was saying, you've got to be decisive because if you're trying to be perfect, it leads to you being paralyzed and the ball's not going anywhere, right? That's describing what Deshaun Watson was doing in this game, right? There was no decisiveness. He was paralyzed generally. The ball was not moving. And his average depth of target was 3.8 yards or something at 3 seconds. And yet he comes out, and the quote was, Deshaun Watson functioned at a high level in the preseason. Those are not consistent. This is what you wanted to see. You didn't see any of that. And he came out and said, he functioned at a high level. And was talking about, it's good to see him enjoying his football again. And I don't understand what's happening here.
You'll be shocked to learn that your friend Lucrative is disagreeing in the chat that he played well by citing his stats. Yeah, I'm telling you, when you go through, I thought so early on. My objective view on Watson, not play by play, but in chunks here. Early on, I thought there was some friendly concepts that Watson has run effectively through the years, like ISO route versus press, hit that. A little high-low that came open, he hit that. The number of times, though, I'm looking around and I'm like, you're dropping your eyes and you're starting to scramble when there are clear checkdowns here.
Yeah.
There is profit to be taken. And by the way, understand the word check. Nobody understands check down anymore. They just think it's a short pass. It's not a screen. It's not slant flat and you throw the flat right off the snap. I'm talking you're reading the play high to low, and high's taken. Fine. If it's not there, like to your point, I'm not asking Deshaun Watson, hey, just rip the deep out whether it's open or not. Like there are times when the deep pass is not open. You don't just throw it blindly, but you do have to quickly get to something underneath to get 5 to 7 yards when it's there. And I think this is why Watson, in those worst EPA in 20 years for the Browns quarterback, I think this was what was showing up on film the last couple of years when he played. Not only was he not taking the shots or hitting them when they were open, but he's also not taking the profit when it's there either. And he was just late on a ton of checkdowns, either not getting it there, and then one of the viral clips where it's a shallow and he's late, and then bounces it.
Yeah.
And it was bad. And so everything from like a footwork, tying your eyes to your feet and seeing it and getting to your checkdowns quickly, like that looked awful, including maybe just not even like ripping the quick out on this very first play. Like it's one of the most common plays in the NFL, stick concept or quick out on 1st and 10, get a little rhythm for the quarterback. And it was the short side of the field and he's got a little space and he just doesn't let it go.
Yeah.
And so it's a process thing. If you're going to cite his 11 of 15, his stats or whatever, it's like get a 44-yard running back screen in there. That skewed everything.
This is where the differences we talked about between the regular season and the preseason are significant, right? Like it's not like he looked terrible in this game. Like Cam Ward looked terrible.
No, I thought
so. He didn't look
like
terrible.
The middle stretch. I thought he looked okay, and I have really low expectations, so I thought he looked fine for like a stretch.
But the point is, if you're going to look at the stats and say, well, the ball moved. Some guy was arguing that he moved them into field goal range and blah blah, and he had 100 and whatever. The stats look okay, and the ball moved, and production-wise, it was okay. And then, the caveats of preseason against a largely second-team Bears defense who were not playing the creative stuff that they're going to normally play in the regular season, right? So in two separate ways, the level of difficulty will get notched up multiple ways once you go from preseason to the regular season. And if this is the baseline, this will result in the ball not moving in the regular season because of the ways he's playing right now, right? That combination of holding onto the ball for an age, being indecisive, not pushing it down the field. If you then put a first-team defense out there with some creative coverages, the ball's not going anywhere.
Yeah, 43 of his 126 passing yards come on a screen pass to Dylan Sampson.
Which is a really nice play by Sampson, by the way.
Yeah, it was. Sampson running through contact and made a nice play.
Yeah.
So I thought Watson, I thought it started slow. It was 15 passes, by the way.
Yeah.
Started slow. There was a little stretch in the middle of those 15 passes where I thought he found a little bit of rhythm and was a bit better. And then I was more disappointed than I had anticipated watching him because he goes 11 for 15. And I think it could have been quicker and more crisp. And I thought there were answers to be had there that he wasn't taking.
I mean, also, on the one hand, this is a guy coming back off back-to-back Achilles injuries. So even just being out there and playing at any kind of functional level is kind of impressive. On the other hand, given the context of where the Browns are, which is he's basically been a busted flush at this point. They're in this weird spot where their quarterback is presumably coming in 2027, and they just need somebody to occupy the chair for 17 games. Like, who do you want to give that to? I see basically no reason whatsoever for Deshaun Watson to be playing football as a starter this year.
All right, then Shedeur Sanders comes in the second half.
Yep.
He finishes 6 of 11 for 79 yards with an interception. Passer rating of 39.6, which is exactly what you get for burying it in the dirt.
It's the same.
Obviously, the interception's doing a lot of the heavy lifting there. You mentioned, so he did throw the ball down the field early on, including a really nice one against the 35-yarder against the blitz. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about that in a minute. But what were your thoughts on Shedeur's 11 drop-back performance here?
I think the Browns' quarterback situation can be summed up in one statistic, which is average depth of target right now. Deshaun Watson I talked about before, 3.8 in this game. Dylan Gabriel, the thing that was wrong with him as a rookie was the guy was just, he would not push the ball down the field anywhere. He could actually, like they were sending him out there trying to get him to dink and dunk, and he was okay at it. Now, the problem was if you're going to have that level of big play averse, you need to be really efficient and can't make mistakes, right? He was doing that and being pretty efficient, and then he would make a big mistake. You're like, do you have any idea how much dink and dunk one bad mistake offsets? Like you basically need to be perfect. He still looked pretty much like that guy. Shedeur Sanders, so his average at the target, 5.8. So it's two yards better than Deshaun. And then Shedeur Sanders an average at the target of 9.9, right? It's like, look.
You're a simple man.
But it's like, None of the three are any less likely to make a glaring critical mistake, but at least one guy's out here trying to make a positive play to offset that, right? And it sounds kind of silly, but when Shedeur was asked about his interception, I think he was right. The read was okay. I just airmailed it, right? Like that's better.
That's what happened. Yeah.
Right, but it's like
he had a wide open dig route on the dagger concept, I believe, and he missed it.
Right,
he missed it badly, and
yes.
There was a little bit of congestion, and it's like that's part of the game, right? You got to play through that, and he floated it.
I'm willing to say that is a qualitatively better play than misreading it, because I think you're less likely to lose the handle on the football on sequentially going forward, whereas I think if you're misreading things, you're every bit as likely to misread it as well going forward. My point being that all three of these guys bring massive negatives to the table, right? But one guy is at least bringing something positive to the table to offset that, so why would you not go with that guy going forward?
Otherwise, so the interception was bad,
yes.
Missed it. You remember we were talking about the Levis turnover-worthy plays. Like, it's a turnover-worthy play, but it was like an inaccurate one.
Yeah,
it was a miss,
bad. I mean,
rather than a bad decision. It doesn't necessarily mean it's better or worse than anything else.
This is the thing. It's like
he missed the throw.
It feels, on the one hand, it feels silly trying to make that distinction, particularly if you're in a press conference answering questions. It's like, what difference does it make? You threw the ball to the defense. I do think it makes a difference, though, because his point is, like, I was under pressure. I identified the correct thing, and then I just didn't execute. Right?
I didn't see it, and I'm going to ask a stupid question here because I didn't see I saw what he said. I didn't see the feedback on it. Were people criticizing him for describing what happened on the interception?
I'm just saying.
I assume they were because it's Shedeur.
Maybe. I'm just saying it. You can easily argue that what difference does it make if the defense is coming out of the play with the football, you were bad, which is true. But I do think it's a distinction worth making, that he didn't misread anything on the play. Because the question was, what did you see on the interception, right? Which is, it's a standard sort of journalistic open-ended question that's not making any assertions, but like the implication is, why did you misread that? Right?
No, the question was, what did you see on it? And he described, I made the right read and I missed the throw. Like, it was a perfectly normal answer.
Yeah, but his point is, like, the implication, I think, to that question was, why did you misread things and throw the ball to the defense? And his point is, I made the correct read and just executed the play badly, which I think is better than, it was cover 2 and I threw the ball right to the corner.
He literally said it was his fault, people.
Yeah.
Gosh. He literally said it's my fault.
Right. It's bad. My point is, I think it's less bad than a total misreading of the defense and throwing the ball to the defense. Again, three quarterback performances for the Browns, it's all bad. The chances are their QB situation this year is going to suck because there's no evidence that it won't do anything other than that. But my point is, if you've got three levels of bad, there's one guy I think there that's bringing something positive to the table. I would go with him.
The 35-yarder against the blitz. Dennis Allen was doing some crazy stuff too, by the way. He was doing double cat blitzes, double cornerback blitz. You know that play in Madden that you never run because it's insane and it never works? Like, I think he started the game with that. I think he ran it twice, at least in this game. So Shedeur's big 35-yarder, they went double safety blitz. They sent both safeties from depth. And Shedeur drops back to 11 yards. We talk about this a lot because we always had to be cognizant of it when evaluating players and everything through our years. He drops back to like 11 yards or whatever, which generally puts the tackles in a bind and they lose leverage. So it looks like the tackles get smoked. And I saw, it may have been RG3, I saw some former quarterback say, hey, you can't drop back to 11 yards on your offensive line. They're going to be pissed. But on this particular play, if Shedeur read all-out blitz,
Right.
You can, right? Because you've got man coverage on the back end. You've got a sea of grass to throw into, and you're just trying to buy time. Mahomes does this all the time.
Yeah.
Good quarterbacks do this all the time. You vacate your normal drop back depth.
Mahomes did this on one of the most famous plays he's ever had.
Right. He retreated to like 12 or 13 yards on Wasp to give him some time to stay away from Nick Bosa. And it looks like your tackle's getting beaten. They're not really. They're just losing the angle. But it's okay because you're trying to, you're going to get hit, and you're just trying to buy enough time. If Shedeur did all that, that was a really good play. I don't know if he did that on purpose, like to drop back to 11, or if it was just bad pocket integrity. But that would be the time to do it, is when you see all-out blitz, especially two safeties coming from depth and buying some time. And he just threw it out into space, and it was a good play. So I thought that was good. And other than that, I thought Shedeur was good, and then had an awful interception on his 11 throws that we've extrapolated out into a full performance.
Well, it's because his finger's in the wrong place on the ball.
All right, so Kurt Benkert had a solution for Shedeur.
And not just a solution, but he apparently has identified all the problems.
Has nothing to do with Shedeur like floating the ball into double coverage last year. Those decisions, it was just the throw. Throwing of the football is not really Shedeur's issue.
It is kind of fast. Yeah,
it's throwing it faster and throwing it to his teammates more consistently. That's the problem.
It's like he threw one bad pass, and Becker's identified like a critical flaw in his game that, I mean, he was one of the more accurate and least mistake-prone quarterbacks in college, with apparently this throwing motion. And you're like, now it's a problem. He had this tweet. I figured out why Shedeur throws wobblers and why the ball slipped out of his hand in the interception across the middle the other day. He doesn't hold the ball right, and it's a simple fix. People hold the laces differently, but his pointer finger on the tip of the ball doesn't allow him to wrap and rotate the ball. It ends up throwing it more like a javelin than spinning the ball. It's why it wobbles often. I believe if he slid his pointer down to wrap the ball, it would slightly cock the ball more to a 90-degree release and give him more RPMs, spin rate, and grip. His angle is slightly off too, and it starts with the pointer finger. It might help him to slide down one lace too. The funniest part, though, is a bunch of people finding images of quarterbacks throwing it the same way as Shedeur, including Kurt Warner, who's got like a whole video explaining why he likes throwing the ball that way. And then
Kurt comes back. Well, he had to wear gloves.
No, well, he said that.
Guy.
And also, he's hyper fixated on, no, it's not just the finger being near the tip of the ball, which is what I claimed it was to begin with. It's also the finger crossing the seam of the ball. That's really important too. So it's not just being at the tip, it's got to cross the seam, because that's how you get the torque and the RPM and the grip, the friction. You want
to be a cold weather quarterback, you got to have the right
exactly
grip.
Right. And it's like, all right, if this was such a big problem, would it not have manifested in fairly obvious ways before this one individual preseason throw that he floated?
You might think it would.
I would.
I don't think his accuracy has been that bad.
Correct, which is my point.
Last year, he made some very questionable decisions as the quarterback, and he's got to play better on time. And his pocket presence, like those types of things.
If this was the type of flaw that was causing, this level of problems passing the ball, it feels to me like it would be obvious. You would be able to see it from all of the basic evidence of him throwing the ball. You can't.
So here we are responding to social media again.
Yeah. He's a former NFL quarterback with at least -1 yard.
It's true. I'm certainly no Deshaun Watson apologist, but
you actually have more yards than he does in the NFL.
You do too. Congrats. I'm no Deshaun Watson apologist, certainly not. He's been awful with the Browns, but like the clip of him going around where his arm gets hit, and it's like, well, look at this duck from Deshaun Watson. Like everybody's doing their own rage bait nonsense. Like, come on. There's plenty of good arguments to make about Deshaun Watson not being good. You don't need to put the clip. Anyway.
Well, again, none of these are in this binary world of good, not good. Like, that's just a stupid way of approaching things. Like, all of these quarterbacks are probably going to be bad this year. My point is simply, as long as you're wasting time, with 17 games of one of them that's probably not going to be on the team going forward, which one is giving you any kind of upside right now? Deshaun Watson, the worst thing that could happen is he plays competent football this year for multiple reasons. Number one, if he wins you some games, you're taking yourself further down the draft order. Number two, if he plays well enough that you actually have to consider him going forward as an option, that's a catastrophe based off his career so far. So why even give him the option, right? Play Shedeur. He's not costing you anything, and maybe he's your backup long term.
On the positive side for the Browns, Casey Concepcion, 14-yard touchdown
He
run.
Looked really good.
He looked good. I thought Denzel Boston had just the one catch for 15 yards, but he looked good on a couple plays. Dylan Sampson looked pretty good on a couple plays. And Quinshon Judkins played football.
Yep.
Which is nice coming off of his injury. So they do have this young nucleus of playmakers and some dynamism with Casey Concepcion in particular. I think they're going to at least be interesting. And this is your point, I think, on why Shedeur should play. He'll at least give them some opportunities to make some of those plays.
Yeah, and, Concepcion looked good. They gave him the ball running as well. Like, that's going to be a part of his game, the gimmick stuff, end arounds, that kind of thing. He took backfield carries in college. Like, he can run the football. He's stronger than you give him credit for, given his stature. I think they have a nucleus of playmakers to actually work with. So give them someone that can throw the ball their way.
All right. I think that's it for us, quarterback-wise. I will say this, high level. All the rookies look pretty good.
QB-wise.
QB-wise. All the rookie quarterbacks, Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson, Drew Allar, we talked about all of these guys. Pretty good-looking class. Garrett Nussmeier did some good things. Good-looking class so far. Those are all last year at this time. Drew Allar was mentioned as a potential first. Carson Beck was mentioned maybe as a potential first. Maybe people had soured on him by this point last year. Nussmeier certainly had been mentioned, and a bunch of guys who went back to school. Mendoza was like an outside sleeper, or someone like Nate Tice had identified him. And I think Ty Simpson, he was a big unknown because he had never really started. But as soon as the season started, you were like, oh, he could be a dude. And he ends up going in the first round. So interesting start for all the rookie quarterbacks here. We're not going to – well, here's the next big story. Jeremiyah Love with, 13, 14 touches?
Yes.
In preseason game 2, not game 1. They played the Hall of Fame game. Jeremiyah Love has a high ankle sprain after a pretty heavy workload.
It's not confirmed as a high ankle sprain, correct? It was simply, we're not going to...
It's changed. Things have changed. It went from like, we don't think it's that bad to it's a little bit worse than we thought. He's probably not playing in the preseason.
Right, but LaFleur specifically refused to clarify. Okay. He was like, it's an ankle. Let's leave it at that, which is fairly obvious. Well, it's a high ankle then, because why would you not? If it was a low ankle, you would say it's a low ankle sprain. If it's a high ankle, you might want to say, let's just call it an ankle. So, yeah, he's injured.
Yeah.
After looking very good.
So remember, we did talk about this on air, right? The Cardinals said something to the effect of, we've looked at recent, first-round running backs or running back prospects, and they seem to do better when they get some workload. They hit the ground running. And my first question on that is, because I'm all for researching those things. Love that. Research. What's the best way, if there is one, to get our team looking good for week 1? How do we prepare? Like, I thought the Bengals for years, Eli, how bad do they start their season, right? So if a team that does that year over year, you should probably study how you handle training camp and all these different things.
Yeah, let me read you the thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Robert Mays from the Athletic Football Show.
I heard what you were thinking. I heard what you were thinking.
No, you didn't. Mays. I was trying to get the exact. I couldn't remember how
you were trying to figure out where Robert works now.
No, I wasn't. I was trying to remember how they termed the Athletic Football Show. What its actual correct title was. He had a tweet after the Jeremiyah Love thing came out, or his stat line was, Arizona staff felt like they'd seen examples where a lack of preseason work affected rookie backs because practice reps at the position are only so effective. Plan was always to avoid that with Love and give him more preseason work than you'd expect. So that's kind of interesting for a couple of reasons. Number one, they have 5 preseason games relative to other people, so you're already
4 now. Yeah.
Sorry, but you've already got more opportunity than other people to give them the work, right?
Yep.
And you've got more than one game, so you can give them a decent amount of work without giving it all in one game. Number 2, the phrasing there is interesting to me. Felt like they'd seen examples does not immediately scream, meticulous research project. Now, maybe that's just how Robert conveyed that. But
I wouldn't look too much into the wording.
I don't know.
But I hear what you...
I don't love that wording for this type of thing, is my only point. But I do... The other part of it does make some sense to me. The idea that there's a lot of practice reps in training camp and preseason for running backs that are basically a waste of everybody's time. Like, this is not real running the football. This is why a lot of running backs look very good in training camp, and then suddenly, like, where did that guy go once the live action started? So I have some sympathy with the idea that these are all meaningless reps and the guy doesn't really know what it's going to be like until the real game starts. I just don't. It seems like a waste of time to me. What difference does it make if he has a slow start 2 games into his rookie season for you?
Those are two. That's one of the questions. The other question is, okay, what are the examples?
Yes.
Because, and again, I can't remember if we said this on air or if we just discussed it.
Felt like they'd seen some.
Yeah, the wording suggests like, oh, Bijan started slow because he didn't, or whoever, Genty started slow. Yeah, so if they just went to like the last few years and thought, well, Genty, Gibbs, and Bijan, they only combined for 10 carries in the. I don't even remember what they did. They only combined for 10 carries in the preseason. They didn't get going until week 3. We're gonna balance that out with Jeremiyah Love. That is not a good research project.
No,
you don't make decisions off of 3 examples. Did they take all rookie running backs? Do you take all rookie running backs for the last 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Is there any kind of signal in there? That's just like where my brain always goes. And then it is a fair question. Does it matter if he starts slow?
That's my bigger question.
In a backfield that has Tyler Algier,
right,
that has James Conner, and you started him as RB3, right? It's like, well, you are easing him in as far as depth chart and what you're talking about. So, I mean, I'm real interested in the process that got you there. I'm not even arguing the process. Of course it looks bad when he gets hurt. But the process could still be sound with you coming away with an injury.
But this is my point is, so the risk reward thing here, what are we gaining, right? Like, even if you create this world where he starts fast as opposed to starting slow, you're already insulated against him starting slow because you've got Tyler Algier and James Conner and you've got other banks. Like, it doesn't really matter whether Jeremiyah Love starts fast or not in his NFL career to you. The offense, the team probably won't be great, right, based off other limitations on the roster. Sure, if Jeremiyah Love is who you thought he was when you drafted him that high, it's probably a significant needle mover, him versus James Conner, him versus Tyler Algier. But, Bijan Robinson split the backfield with Tyler Algier, didn't do them any harm, right? So that would be my big question is, like, what are we gaining with this, right? Because what we're losing is exposing Jeremiyah Love to getting injured in a total waste of everybody's time in terms of game preseason, right? And it turns out that's what happened. So the risk is obvious. We just saw it actually manifest in real time. My question is, what's on the other side of the scales here? Like, what are we trying to gain out of this?
All right, I had to look at it quickly. Bijan Robinson had 4 carries as a rookie in the preseason, all in preseason week 2 against the Bengals. He starts the year by going 11 for 70, 19 for 124, 10 for 33, 14 for 105. So he averages over 6 yards per carry in 3 out of his first 4 games. There was a fumble in week 1. There was 2 fumbles in the first 5 weeks. Maybe you're holding that against him, but Bijan seemed to run pretty well. So there's my I know I'm a big data guy, but there's your medium data analysis right there. Anecdotal. Bijan was fine. It's more with 4 carries. Let's check Gibbs.
That's more bad datable.
Bad datable. Jahmyr Gibbs went 6 carries.
Oh, we should totally run that.
We absolutely should. Give us it's just watched online.
The bad datable.
Kurt Benkert, 0 for 1 with an overthrow. Change your grip.
We could have prizes and stuff. This would be great.
We're going to do a bad datable. Bring your worst data analysis.
We could do it at the combine next to the big data. This is perfect. We should do this.
You want to do it next year?
Yes. I want to run the bad datable.
We're going to, so while I'm in the middle of researching here, the big data bowl is like in the JW Marriott. Mm-hmm. It's downstairs. You have to take the escalator down.
At the Fairfield.
No. Hear me out. It's down the escalator in the JW. They take 2 or 3 conference rooms. They combine it. Mm-hmm. They bring in Cynthia Freeland. They bring in Greg Olson. They bring in the heavy hitters. It's like a big presentation and everything, and it's really nice, and it's in the middle of Combine Week. Why don't we do ours? Like, what's the complete opposite we could do? Let's do ours in the hallway.
Yeah.
outside the big data bowl. We'll have the bad data bowl. Bring your worst data to the table.
The Starbucks like lobby thing. The Starbucks.
We'll do it right in the lobby.
Yeah.
With just in the middle of Rap Sheet's
correct
boxing matches.
Just where everybody sits and meets during the Starbucks thing. Like that's where we should do it.
Somebody has to stand up on a table at the Starbucks and present their solution.
All we need to do is to drag out, like an easel thing, like with the and write down your bad data in front of everybody.
Because the JW meeting rooms will just borrow. They have the easels with they come with the meeting room when you rent the meeting room for like $3,000 a day.
Boost one of
those. So you get the easel.
This is perfect.
And people just draw it right out. Yes, this is beautiful. Send your entries. Check the mic at the33rdteam.com.
Yeah, with bad data ball in the title.
I'm doing my bad data research here. So Jahmyr Gibbs, rookie preseason.
Yeah.
He goes 6 for 19. So he only had 6 carries. It was preseason week 1. Mm-hmm. And now he started the season as part of
19?
6 for 19.
What a loser.
He was a timeshare guy, though, right? Because he had David Montgomery.
Right.
So they were easing him in. He goes 7 for 42, 7 for 17, 18 for 85, 8 for 40. They weren't giving him a ton of carries early on. Now, is that a slow start? He didn't fumble. Is that a slow start, or is that just the Lions doing that on purpose? Just easing him in. Let's do one quick Ashton Genty view to finish our bad data research, which the Cardinals may have also done
3
themselves.
Data points. Set.
3 data, but this if you want to read into what Robert Mays said, this may have been how they did the research. Ashton Genty had 12 carries in the preseason. He went 2 for 5, 7 for 33, and 3 for -1. Oh boy, was that a little forecasting of what the season? I'm sorry, that's reverse order. His first game, he went 3 for -1, if you remember. And was that not forecasting what the season was going to be like? So he had 12 carries. And, of course, he gets into the year, and it's, 20 for 42 and 11 for 43. And, he averaged 3 yards a pop in pretty much every game except 2. So are we using Ashton Genty as an example? The dude only had 12 carries. So he had 12. Gibbs had 6. Bijan had 4. I would say Bijan and Gibbs were perfectly fine once they hit the regular season. Genty was bad because, statistically was bad, not necessarily him. But he was bad because, the run game was bad the entire year. I assume that did more extensive research than that, but that was us. I'm just telling you, I know how this happens in football, right? There's a lot of smart people in the buildings, but there's also people who are like, man, this thing happened last year. Let's just project it out as this is what's going to happen this year.
Even just, I just don't understand the workload they gave him struck me as insane, right? Even if you want to put him out there with the first team and just say, all right, you're going to play with the first-string offense. We'll try and funnel that through you, maybe. But then, when the first team takes a seat on the bench, so do you. They left him out there with the second string while the first team got a chance to chill. Again, you've got more preseason games. Why does he need to take – if you want to load him up in preseason, okay, maybe. But why would you do it all in one game?
Maybe that was his entire workload. Then they were going to sit him for 2 weeks.
Well, that seems even more insane.
I appreciate the chat doing the spot research as well. Kyle Harrison says, Adrian Peterson played his very first NFL preseason game with the Minnesota Vikings, August 10th, 2007, and he rushed 11 times for 33 yards, according to Google, who would not lie to us.
No, never.
14 touches, though, for Jeremiyah Love, the number 3 overall pick.
Just that as a number seems crazy.
So he's injured. They lose second-round guard Chase Basantis, who had a pretty nice little start to his career. He's out for the season with a torn MCL.
And he looked really good.
Carson Beck, of course, missed. He was more precautionary, but he missed the week with, I believe, a rib injury. But Rap Sheet said, don't worry about it. He'll be fine. He would have wanted to be there for his teammates, presumably. But the team had to save him from himself. I'm paraphrasing, of course, whatever Carson Beck's agent sent to Rap Sheet. And then Caleb Proctor, defensive tackle, their 4th-round pick, also injured. Yeah. Rough start for the Cardinals rookies.
Indeed. The Carson Beck one, it sounds precautionary, but the Chase Basantis one is pretty brutal. Like that, he looked good right out of the gate. Again, sample size, let's not get carried away, but he could have been an important part of that offensive line. It looked bad the second it happened. He was down clutching his knee and ultimately ends up getting him shut down for the year. That sucks for them and for him.
So if Love if he's questionable for week 1, fine. I mean, again, it's probably not a big deal either way. If he had 14 touches and didn't get hurt, we'd still be like, man, do you really need to have 14 touches?
I mean, at the
for
time,
Jeremiyah Love?
yeah, that's the thing. Like, this is not necessarily hindsight in terms of, he got injured, so it was bad. Like, at the time, I was tweeting, what are we doing? Why are we giving Jeremiyah Love this kind of workload in a random preseason game?
Right.
Like, we have a backfield that's stacked full of running backs. What are we doing here? Now,
I thought
the
he looked good,
explanation
too.
apparently,
Quick, fast.
Yeah. The explanation apparently was they believe it's important to let him hit the ground running, to which my counter is simply, who cares? Why is that important? Like, what difference is it? Unless you're telling me it materially affects his longevity or something, I really don't care if he starts fast.
Yeah, that's where I am with rookies. I don't care if you have a good week 1 to 3 of your NFL career.
But particularly for a team that's going to suck, right?
Yeah, but nobody's having that. Nobody's like, man, we're poised to win 3 this year.
But they're not looking. They can't possibly be looking at this season being like, we're a contender. At which point, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I agree. Now, if it's like year 3, and you look good, like if it's the Rams and it's like, man, we have to hit the ground running.
Sure.
The Seahawks, we
Right.
have to be good in week 1. You make
Yes.
you make choices to be good in week 1.
Like if the Rams had drafted Mekhi Lemon, right, and we're like, this guy is a material difference between us
You need to have him
making the
ready.
Super Bowl or not,
Yeah.
right? Like him moving from the get-go would be important. Jeremiyah Love for the Cardinals, I just don't see the upside play here. Okay, even if we assume your study shows that and it's legit and it's not just like, I can remember a couple of guys, even if we assume this was a meticulous study and it showed that exactly, I still don't really see the upside play to it. Because again, this is the downside play, is what if he gets hurt in your stupid waste of time reps, right? That weighed against what is the upside? He has 8 more carries for 50 more yards in the first 2 weeks of the season. What did that do for you? Like,
Fair. Other running backs who are getting some hype / looking really good. Mike Washington for the Raiders looked really good. We know he was size, speed monster at the combine. 1 year of production at Arkansas, stringing together, moves really efficiently, at least on one long run.
And the speed.
The speed definitely showed it off there. Jonah Coleman for the Broncos on a couple carries I thought looked pretty good. Emmett Johnson for the Chiefs. Just some of the guys that all the AFC West rookie running backs looking pretty decent this weekend.
Yep. Now, Emmett Johnson had a lot of carries too. So
he did.
They weren't sparing him.
But he's also a 4th round backup.
Yes.
4th, 5th round, wherever he went.
Yes. The other two, however, I think show you the more conventional approach, which is, in particular, Jonah Coleman had like 4 carries, and then the Broncos seemed to be like, wow, that went well. Let's get him off the field.
Yeah.
Mike Washington Jr., same other kind of thing. I think he had 6. But like, that's kind of how you approach this, is let's get his feet wet. Let's, hopefully he'll show us something and then get him off the field, because all that can happen from that point is bad.
Let's talk rookie wide receivers here an hour and a half into the show.
Why not?
Let's get to the receivers. Who stood out to you? A lot of hype for some of the rooks this week.
Yeah. We've already mentioned a couple of them. KC Concepcion looked really good. You mentioned Malachi Fields, nice touchdown for the Giants. That's the type of play that you would have said that's what he's there for, right? I think he can do more, but the fact that he made the play that he's supposed to make is encouraging. It's a really nice throw by Jackson Dart as well.
Really quick. I don't know if it's something we should do Wednesday, but it would be like rehashing this. But there are certain performances, Malachi Fields, one I want to mention later, that I think are really important for the season. Given the wide receiver 2 question mark for the Giants opposite Malik Neighbors, Malachi Fields is an important one, right? Some of these players, it's nice to see. Like if Mike Washington has a good preseason, fine. But like Jonah Coleman might actually have a path to the field for the Broncos. Malachi Fields absolutely has a path to the field. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm just pointing out some of these might have real impact on the season if these guys are good.
And it's important for him, if nothing else, to just give everybody confidence that he can do the thing that he's supposed to be good at, to then buy him the playing time to see if he can do the other things as well, right? Like the fact that he's sort of shown, hey, worst case scenario, I'm going to be a really reliable possession red zone target for you. Put me out there, coach, right? Then you can see, all right, what if he can get open more than that as well? So important for him. We mentioned Caden Weegan for the Steelers looking really good. DeJon Stribling, we need to mention, because he was like the 49ers offense for a chunk of that. Looked good. I mean, again, the hype for him is going to be significant in part because the opportunity is there for him to be like the number 1 wide receiver on this team. Like they're banged up. everybody's missing time. Mike Evans may miss time during the season just because he's old and has a history of soft tissue injuries at this point. So Stribling's going to have chances to play, and so far he's taken advantage of those. He looks good. He looks dynamic. He's going to be a player for them, I think.
And for the controversy around him going first pick of the second round, when everybody's like, well, he's more of a late second. He was getting some buzz. Did the Niners do the right thing? So far, looking really good there. And to your point, that's another important one because opportunity is going to be there for him.
Jacoby Lane is backing up the hype for him. I'm fascinated by the Jacoby Lane thing because he would be the one where if he works out, it's going to confuse more people than anybody else. Like there are other guys where if they work out, it's like, all right, whatever, fine. We liked him, but we didn't like him that much. A lot of people hated Jacoby Lane as a prospect, and yet he went, I think, higher than some people thought he would go anyway. Has been getting rave reviews all the way through camp and is, making some plays for the Ravens in training camp or in preseason rather. First preseason game, 3 catches, 38 yards, a touchdown. He's looking good.
His fellow rookie, though, the guy that I said I really liked coming out, Elijah Surratt, also 6 catches for 66.
Yep.
And he did fumble in there, but Surratt's question coming out was separation. And remember, he was Fernando Mendoza's favorite back shoulder guy at Indiana. But athleticism and separation and general dynamism, I thought he looked pretty good after the catch. Surratt's had an interesting career where he was super productive. I had concerns about his ability to have, any kind of wiggle and overall athleticism at the position. He was just like this, physical player with good ball skills. I thought last year he showed a little bit better in that area. He had the game winner against Oregon in their first matchup at Oregon. And then in this game, forced a couple missed tackles after the catch. Yes, he did fumble, but I thought he showed some good stuff as well. So if the Ravens hit on one or two of those guys, it all of a sudden becomes a really loaded wide receiver group for Lamar Jackson there.
Yeah. Jeremy Bernard for the Steelers. It's like the first positive thing I've heard from him since they drafted him. Like, remember, he didn't go to the Cowboy retreat with Aaron Rodgers, so that was a big negative against him. But also, really hadn't heard basically anything from him throughout training camp.
He's a rookie. He's not going to do anything this year.
Sure.
Aaron will not take the time.
4 catches from 5 targets, 51 yards, looked good. And even his tape in college, like he felt like a guy who's just a gamer. Like he just understands the game. He knows where to be and when to be there and how to get there. Like he's just got a feel for the game. I thought you saw some of that in the preseason.
I had Cyrus Allen, similar, backing up the hype. I know we've mentioned him on almost every show this August.
Yeah, had to elevate for 1 catch.
Yeah. So he looked, good. He's going to bring some athleticism to that, more athleticism, just different type. I think a little bit more quickness to that Chiefs offense. And if, Rashee Rice, I don't know what's going to happen with his knee. He just doesn't look great running around right now. And maybe that takes half a season for him to get back. But if Cyrus Allen steals some of those yak plays and Xavier Worthy continues to be more of that vertical threat, I think that bodes well for the Chiefs offense. Caleb Douglas had a really nice 28-yard catch for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And as we were on the show here today, they activated third-round wide receiver Chris Bell from the non-football injury list. Chris Bell, coming off of an late-season ACL last year, still doesn't mean we might not see him for half a season or whatever it may be, but he's playing football. And you got him, you got Caleb Douglas. Dolphins fans, you do have a lot of young players to watch this year. It's a good start for Douglas.
Yeah, it was. There's a few guys like that didn't get as many opportunities as some of these other rookies, but did make a play in the few targets that they did get. He was one of them. And then we mentioned him already, but I have to give him more of a shout out. Reggie Virgil, the Cardinals receiver, had 10 targets, which I think was the most or the second most of anybody this week. Had 7 catches for over 100 yards. 1 really nice sideline catch. Kirk Cousins was giving him praise. Man's a big Kirk Cousins fan, apparently. It was a little video of Reggie post-game, like basically hanging around like a starstruck fan waiting to meet Kirk Cousins, waiting to go up and say hey. And Cousins was, giving him praise.
That's how I felt when I was in New Orleans at the Super Bowl. I took a little detour to a hotel, and I was just, there's Kirk Cousins sitting there right there in the lobby.
Right, starstruck.
Couldn't say anything.
No. He has that effect
Couldn't
on
muster
people.
it up.
Yeah.
To see Kirk. And we have to mention Camden Brown for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
With an incredible 2 touchdowns, contested catch in tight traffic on I believe it was Joe Milton, just throwing laser beams into coverage for him to make a play. Oh, Joe Milton's time to shine in the preseason. I love it. And then a one-handed catch on a fade.
Yep.
Camden Brown stealing the show this week. These are fun. Somebody asked me, or Pony and Mulsey asked me, like, what positions are you looking for? And as I'm saying it, I'm kind of like regretting it immediately. And I was thinking receiver and edge rusher. Because where can you show something in the preseason? I do think there's something to, hey, you make spectacular catches, you look dynamic as a receiver. It doesn't necessarily mean it translates. Doesn't necessarily mean it translates in year one, but maybe in year 2 or 3, and you got to earn your way up. But good size, ball skills from Camden Brown out of Georgia Southern in that game.
It's also,
and then I said pass rusher, and that as I'm thinking back to like all the dudes who just dominated bad offensive linemen throughout the preseason. But again, it's like if you're going to be good going forward, you should probably dominate.
They're also the guys. They're the guys that are fun because those positions rotate. So there's a pathway to the field for those guys,
right?
And there's always a way you can convince yourself that this guy is the next Cameron Wake, right? A guy who dominates at every level sequentially and kind of works his way up to give him more and more opportunities, and eventually the guy is like one of the best edge rushers in the NFL.
Maybe that's why, because you could say, like, if Camden Brown hits, it's like, all right, give him some wide receiver 4 snaps this year.
Exactly.
He's going to get 10 to 12 snaps.
Let's just see.
Yeah. And as a pass rusher, okay, edge 3, edge 4, put him in the rotation. So part of it is they have a chance to shine. And then second one, it's like, all right, you could see where they could get on the field this year.
And most
so that's
of
what
them,
I like to look at.
Most of them are going to be Stephen Means, not Cameron Wake, right? But every now and again, you'll get the Cameron Wake, and that's going to be fun. Like that, those are why I think it's more fun. Like there are other positions where if they play well, it's like, well, great. But now for him to see the field, he needs to unseat, a starting guard or whatever, and that's not necessarily easy to do. Whereas with those guys, you don't have to bench anybody necessarily to just work them in and see what they can do. So I think, they're more fun that way.
I want to go to the defensive side of the ball. Anything offensive line-wise or on the offense you want to talk about? Someone in the chat mentioned Matthew Hibner, the SMU tight end, having a really nice week for the Ravens. I mean, there's a path there with Isaiah likely out to have a receiving tight end. He had a nice start to his career. We saw Marlon Klein do a pretty nice job from a run game perspective. Saw Lance Erline breaking that down, the second-round pick, who, we're keeping an eye on that storyline because he was one of those second-rounders that went way earlier than expected. And if he could hold his own in the run game, that's something to keep an eye on. Anything else offensively that you wanted to touch on?
Raiders' third-round pick, Trey Zune, played very well at tackle. That would be an interesting one for them because they've got that potential spot at right tackle that's been a question mark for a few years now. Maybe that would be somewhere he could win a gig. Obviously, you've got the great Willie Lampkin pancaking people.
Oh, Willie playing well again. Oh, that's right. I put it in big, bold, and in green. Willie playing center and guard for the Eagles. Let's have an honest Willie Lampkin discussion because I made my little joke, like, how did the NFL let the Eagles get Willie Lampkin? And I was reminded because they did kind of cheat the unwritten rules of
that's right.
claiming the injury designated Willie Lampkin. Oh, man, that's what we get Les back on the show.
That's how you do it.
We forgot to ask Les about the Eagles screwing them over with claiming the injury designation.
Is Howie dead to you now that they stole Willie?
Right?
Yeah.
It was so the Rams had him in the preseason. Last year he had an awesome preseason.
Yeah.
We were raving about him. He gets hurt. The Rams were going to do the waived injured thing. And usually it just, goes through the league and boom, you stash him. And then it's like, all right, we'll see him next year. And the Eagles claimed him, which apparently is an unwritten rule.
Right.
In the NFL, and if it's that important, maybe make it a written rule. So the Eagles claim him last year. So he's an Eagle, and here he is playing guard and center. And remember, he's the most undersized offensive lineman in the NFL, even smaller than Aaron Brewer, the modern marvel.
Except when it comes to arm length.
Except with arm length. But Lampkin was so good in college and so good in the preseason last year, so good at the Senior Bowl. Overall, like the guy just plays football well.
Yeah.
But there are genuine concerns about how small he is. I mean, he wins the pad level game because of his size, but he can be overpowered at times. We saw that in at least one rep the other night, but he is an outstanding football player, and I think there's a legitimate path for him being a starter at some point in the NFL.
He's built like offensive line Poona Ford.
Yes.
Which is interesting because there was a video the other day of Jason Kelce chatting it up with Willie Lampkin. But Jason Kelce would say, outside of the Aaron Donalds of the world or whatever, Poona Ford was the guy that gave him more problems than anybody else because generally speaking, with Jason Kelce's size, he would win the leverage game and he could get under and win against bigger, stronger guys. But Poona Ford, who was 5'11", but has really long arms. Like he was lower than Jason Kelce, but had longer arms. So Kelce's like, this neutralizes my calling card here. I don't know what to do with this. Lampkin is like Poona Ford, but on the offensive line. He's lower than any defensive lineman he's going to come up against, and his arms are as long as most of them. So he's a problem.
And I saw the caption that somebody put out there. Here's, Jason Kelce giving tips to Willie Lampkin. Pet peeve, Sam.
Willie doesn't need tips.
First off, we have no idea what they're saying. You don't know what they're talking. They could be talking about Travis and the Swift wedding.
Yeah.
They could be talking about that. We have no idea what they're talking about. And if anyone's giving tips, it's Willie. Probably telling Jason, maybe if you did a couple things, you could still be in the league. Willie doesn't need tips. So, Willie Lampkin looked good once again.
Emmanuel Pregnon, the Oregon guard, played pretty well. Had, again, another one. I mean, when you're talking about offensive linemen and a dozen snaps or whatever, you're generally talking about one big play. So Willie Lampkin had his pancake. Pregnon looking for work, buries a defensive end, trying to move to the inside of the tackle, which to me, it showed that explosive power, which I thought was all over his college tape. That one's interesting because there was this whole dynamic during the draft of like, well, the Chargers weren't drafting interior offensive linemen when we thought they would. Pregnon had this crazy slide in the draft, and it was like it felt like an obvious fit, even if stylistically Pregnon in McDaniel's offense is not necessarily the player that you would choose. It would be interesting if Pregnon plays really well and the Chargers still have problems on the offensive line.
It would also be interesting, did you mention it like this, that he was the Jaguars relative to the consensus board, quote, reached on every pick except the guy that was a fringe first rounder. And then it comes with, like, if you just flip him and one other player in the draft, it kind of looks more reasonable. And it would be funny if he was the guy that hit the ground running and was the, best player in that draft class. And then the other, just an interesting story. But, yeah, he looked good. One of the guys he went up against also looked good on the defensive side of the ball. Defensively, I'll give you a couple defensive linemen that stood out. We'll talk Arvell Reese. We'll talk football performance stuff being thrown out there, and everybody's reaction. I'm going to react to all the social media stuff. The guy that Pregnon went up against a bunch was Christian Miller from the Saints. I thought he looked really good, and I put him in the bucket of really important for multiple reasons. The Saints have been awful at defensive tackle the last few years. Brian Brzee out for the season. Miller, they get him in the second round. We said this on draft night. Like, that dude, he's one of those draft picks where, like, if he hits this year, it's important for the season. They're still not great at defensive tackle, but his hands are really good. Miller's a very good run defender. Think he could rush the passer. He felt like he was one of those guys, like, you watch the film and the film feels awesome, and it's like, man, the production's just not fully there. Like, he felt like he produced more than maybe the stats would have shown. I think Miller can be a really good player and an important one for the Saints. I thought he had a nice debut.
Yeah.
If it counts as a debut. Preseason debut.
Preseason.
Yeah.
There was a couple of reps where he went one-on-one with Pregnon. It was like, these are two monsters, just titanic wrestling match up in the middle here. That was pretty fun to watch. Yeah, he looked pretty good. That would be important for them. So
that one stood out. TJ Parker had a couple good reps, another second rounder for the Bills. I think he's another important one as well. Their offseason moves, they've loaded up on defensive linemen the last couple of years. By the way, sophomore Deion Walker had another one of those freak plays. I said he looked like Kalijah Cansey plus 60 pounds. He looked really good, and maybe that ends up becoming an awesome fit with Jim Leonard's scheme coming in here. But I thought Parker showed a little bit of pop in his hands and some power rushing off the edge. I'm just looking at traits here. But he won a couple reps, but he looked like he had some pop and some power, and I think it's an important one. They brought in Bradley Chubb opposite Gregory Rousseau, and Parker was that underachieving final year player at Clemson, like a bunch of other ones, but I thought he looked pretty decent on a few reps this week.
Yeah, I think that's a decent one. I want to talk two players who I think are kind of interesting because remember that Nigerian freak show Uwar Bernard who'd never played football but had crazy numbers and ended up getting drafted by the Eagles because of it?
I was wondering if you were going to bring them up.
Well, so he played, and it's interesting. So he had these crazy numbers that were sort of straight line, but if you watch his tape, by tape I mean like the workout tape, it's like it doesn't look. We don't look like a fluid athlete here. We just look like a guy who's like powering his way through every one of these things and doing it to a fairly freaky degree. But he kind of plays football like just a really big, strong dude who's no idea what he's doing. And I think that's kind of what he is. Meanwhile, you had Jordan Vandenberg, right, who the Bears drafted in the 6th round, who's this South African stock guy who never played. Like his family moved from South Africa. His parents didn't want him playing a violent game like rugby or like football, which you would normally go into as a South African monstrous human being. And eventually he convinced him. So he's not been playing football for that long. He's who people wanted Uwar Bernard to be, right? Like he's also kind of just this naturally freakish, powerful lunatic, but has a much better idea of what he's doing. And is consequently a real problem to block for offensive linemen.
He had a really nice game there.
Yeah.
I'll say this, the Bears...
Against these Browns backup offensive linemen.
No, I get it. But you see the quickness, you see the ability to penetrate. I'll just lay out what was said. The preseason broadcasts are always interesting, right? Because it's local broadcasts and they're telling stories and they're reminding the fans, here's who your team brought in this offseason and the whole thing. And it's always skewing. Like all the free agents are going to hit the ground running. They're going to be great. All the rookie class looks great. But Jim Miller, who was on the Bears broadcast, said something to the effect of they like their defensive tackle room. They like their defensive tackles in Chicago. Even though on paper it looks like one of the more questionable groups. But they said they like the depth. But Vandenberg is another, I think, important one because my biggest criticism of the Bears is they did not add any pass rush talent, or at least establish pass rush talent. But if they hit on Vandenberg or if they get the year 3 breakout from Austin Booker, and if they are deeper than we think at defensive tackle and their read on it is better than ours, then I think it's important for the Bears who need some help up front. And if Vandenberg hits as a pass rusher, I think it's huge.
I mean, I joked about this a bit that these South African rugby players, the physical advantage they have over most countries is kind of insane. Like, and they are able to produce these physical monsters, and Vandenberg is one of them. I mean, he's 6'3", over 300 pounds, had crazy workout numbers. Like he runs under 5 seconds for the 40 at that size. He's got a 36-inch vertical at that size. He was bench repping 35 times at that size. Like he's got freakish power, just that natural inbuilt farm boy, only it's South African farm boy strength. And again, has more of an idea of what he's doing, despite being a relatively young, inexperienced football player, than somebody who's literally never played the game before. Like Vandenberg could legitimately be a serious find for them.
All right, other defensive linemen. A couple Oklahoma guys. Grayson Halton, defensive tackle for the Niners. Undersized-ish interior penetrator. You saw some of that on film the other night against the Titans. And then going back to the Chiefs, R. Mason Thomas. He was drafted in the 2nd round to be, to add some juice off the edge, and you saw that.
Yeah.
Right? So both guys looked a lot like they did at Oklahoma. Another one where I think both are important. Niners could use any kind of defensive tackle help. They've thrown a lot at that position the last couple of years. And the Chiefs have generally leaned toward more power type edge rushers, and they don't have the sawed-off pass rusher type like R. Mason Thomas. And if he can, his speed to the top of the pocket, I think, can do wonders for that defense. And what Chris Jones' production, George Karlaftis on the other side, I think it just adds a lot that Kansas City doesn't have, and you saw that the other day.
Yeah, the Chiefs are interesting because you had R. Mason Thomas definitely flashed that ability and what he could do, and yet you also had Peter Woods, who had been getting a ton of training camp hype and buzz, and he didn't make much, if any, of an impact in the snaps that he had. So two kind of contrasting debuts for those two defenders, both of whom they're kind of relying on to make some impact this year.
The Chiefs' draft class has gotten a ton of hype between Cyrus Allen in the 4th round, Emmett Johnson at running back, R. Mason Thomas, who we mentioned. Mansour Delane has been injured, but when he's out there, he's been good. The other side of it was Peter Woods the other day. I saw our friend Jeff Schwartz talking about it. Like sometimes you just run into a game where they're running duo at you, like you're getting double teamed most of the time, and
which is not his game.
You don't get a chance to rush the passer. It's not his game. He's had some hype in training camp as a late first-round pick. He did not look good the other day, both single blocks and double teams. He was getting moved at the point of attack. So not a great debut for Woods, but a lot of it was situational. Like they're running right down your throat, and like you said, it's not necessarily his game for the Chiefs. What else stood out to you?
Also, I guess in the same Peter Woods bucket, Caleb Banks played a reasonable amount, and again, did not bring an awful lot to the table. He's hasn't had a ton of playing time for the Vikings in training camp, has been kind of working his way back. The highlight for Caleb Banks is as spectacular as any defensive tackle you're going to find, but the baseline, even in college, has not been great. It's not ideal when you see him play 25 snaps and basically don't do much.
Jake Golday looked really good.
Yeah, which again I
went through some of his plays. He looked nice.
I
think he makes an impact right away.
Yeah, which has been kind of a trend of training camp for them so far.
Let's talk linebackers here. One other thing. So we're in a golden age of people clipping and putting all the reps out there. Mm-hmm. So like David Bailey had his put out there for the Jets. My PSA for that is like when you put a pass rusher's snaps out there, you have to understand base rates. When you put a pass rusher's snaps out there,
he lost most of the reps.
Yes. Like understand what a pass rush win rate is, what the expectation is. Understand double teams. Understand that if there's a double team in the run game, it's certainly not game planned or assigned. You're not like commanding a double team here in the preseason. But from a pass rush perspective, you're probably not going to get home on 85% of your reps.
Yeah.
You're not going to get home for
Myles
whatever
Garrett
reason.
Has a pass rush win rate of 20%.
Yes. So you're not going to get home on most reps. So if you have 9 pass rushes and you get home on 1 to 2, it's probably the standard, right? And so you can't be like, oh, this dude's useless. Oh, he's getting shut down. Like, just be smart. Be smart. Just be smart.
PSA, be smart.
Be smarter. Understand the base rates. It's happened with the linebacker thing, too. Like, here's all of Sonny style snaps, and I'm like, there's like 0 takeaways from Sonny style. Either way. I mean, there's some football people be like, man, I love how he does this. Like, there's some other people like, man, the guy didn't make any plays, 0 tackles. Like,
people love to crap on
what?
People love to crap on PFF all the time, but like, there's a reason most of the grades are 0 because there's so many plays in football where there's nothing to take from.
There's no significant. Like, did you get depth and zone, and then it didn't get targeted? Great.
This is a nothing. It's a nothing rep. Move on to the next one.
Did you fill the gap and the ball didn't hit it, and you're just in the right play? Great, good job. So Sonny Styles looked fine. It was fine. I don't have any grand takeaways off what he played. 15 snaps, 10 snaps. Now, Arvell Reese had some plays. Here's what I like about preseason. Preseason, you get a little bit more base offense.
Yeah.
Which is a lot more fullbacks in the backfield.
Which usually you're getting more of anyway, based off how the game is pivoting back. But
you are getting but I'm saying like base play, like
right.
You like weak side ISO, you don't even see in the regular season anymore. That was like the old like base run for everybody. You get to see linebackers take on fullbacks a little bit more in the preseason, it seems. And Arvell Reese wrecked a fullback. I mean, I don't know if it was a tight end, I forget who it was, but wrecked somebody. Reese looked pretty good. And he played all linebacker. True to the Giants' own words, all linebacker, no edge rush, nothing.
Yeah.
I saw our friend Brett Coleman say, well, man, I really wish we got to see him in a Robert Saleh defense. And I was thinking, they would make him an edge rusher, I think, in Saleh's defense. I don't think they play him as Fred Warner in that defense. Right. But in this defense, they got him as a linebacker.
I'm a little sad by that.
That you don't get what?
We don't get to see him in any kind of hybrid multiple position.
Oh, I think they will. I think the Giants will. They're not going to unveil it in week 1. I think he'll be in more of a hybrid role on third down.
Maybe.
I expect it. So he looked good early on. I'm not saying Sonny Styles didn't look good. I'm just saying Reese had a couple.
Yeah, it sounds like that's what you're saying.
He had a couple eye openers.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he looked good. He's got that explosive. For a guy who's not that big, like Sonny Styles is bigger, effectively, than Arvell Reese is. Arvell Reese hits differently, and sometimes you see it more when he's lined up as an edge rusher or as somewhere at the line of scrimmage. But he's got power. For that size, he's got a freakish amount of power.
Yeah, I thought that was very clear that was his game in Ohio State. Power player. And he showed it right away. And if offenses are going more base, and I always like to look at the division. If you got the Eagles and the way they want to run the ball, I mean, it's might not be the worst thing in the world to have Arvell Reese as a true linebacker. Though I'd love to see the hybrid play from them.
Mm-hmm.
Any other players to touch on? I've got a couple. So one other player definitely need to mention, and then some other high-level thoughts.
At linebacker or
generally? Generally. I kind of went through some positions, but we got to mention this.
We should mention Jermod McCoy because he played.
That's the guy.
And that on its own is significant. I thought he played pretty badly, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But the fact that he played and he's presumably going to get the opportunity this year, when some of the narrative was that he might miss this year entirely, blah, 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 it's good to see him out there, right? Now he's going to need to play a lot better than that if we're going to see him out there for much longer than that. But the fact that he's playing at all is good.
So, yeah, to remind everybody, Jermod McCoy, cornerback out of Tennessee, was thought to be maybe the top corner off the board for some people, top 15 caliber pick. Right before he was, even though he missed all of last season coming off a knee injury, then before the draft it comes out, degenerative knee. This could be a long-term thing. He's off of team boards, falls all the way to the fourth round when the money's not guaranteed, and he's the first pick of the fourth round by the Raiders, which at the time we said, wonderful. I mean, that's a great pick, and especially if you're the Raiders, where you don't have a ton of defensive talent, you're rebuilding your team. Absolutely, take a shot in the fourth round on a first-round talent, and if you only get 4 years out of him, or if he, well worth the shot in the fourth round. And then after all that said, it was like, okay, this guy's going to need some kind of surgery that's going to knock out one of the years of his career. Is it going to happen now? Is it going to happen later? I think we all kind of made this assumption it might be this year. Like, he'll just not play this year, and he's back, and he's playing football. Now he gets beaten for a couple touchdowns. Like you said, like it wasn't –
We gave up 3 catches on 3 targets, and they all kind of look the same, which is you're actually in reasonable position right up until the break, and then the guy just basically – overpowers you physically at the break point and separates enough to get the easy enough catch. Like all 3 of them basically look like that exact same target. You got to do better than that at the top of the route.
Yeah. So it'll be, first off, here's the 2 things that are interesting. Like if the knee is that bad, I think it's as much about recovery and will he play this week? Because he played 30 snaps.
Yeah.
Is he going to come back, play this week? Because that's what it felt like part of the issue was. We don't know if he can make it through an entire season. So playing the first game is a good thing to see. Let's keep an eye on if he plays week after week. And then, of course, just from a playing standpoint, got to be more physical. You got to be better at the catch point. But he was really athletic. I always thought, as a prospect, technique was not necessarily his game, but the speed and athleticism. Like, he played a lot of catch-up. Like, he relied on his speed and athleticism, and if he has lost a step coming off the knee, that might be an issue, at least in year 1. Just look, it was a big story because we talked about it a ton during the draft. Played 30 snaps in week 1. It's just something to monitor going forward.
But he was a lot more feisty than he showed this game, so I would maybe he gets back some of that. Yeah. I was kind of surprised the manner of those defeats as much as the defeats themselves. I would be remiss if I did not bring up the performance of my guy, Ephesians Prysock.
Oh, yeah.
Who went out there, and for some reason, they're like, you know what? Ephesians is out there. Let's throw the ball into his coverage. No. 6 targets, 2 catches, 19 yards, and a pass breakup. Now, did he miss a tackle as well? Whatever.
Right.
I thought he looked pretty good for the 49ers.
Good for Ephesians there.
Mm-hmm.
He was the first guy you liked at the Senior Bowl?
The first guy these scouting eyes identified as a dude this year.
Senior Bowl genius.
Based off literally 1 rep. But then, it extended that 1 rep into other play.
Any other players to mention here?
What does the chat say? Who's the chat want to? want to cover.
Oh, the short-armed sensations around the league.
The short-arm sensation.
Short-armed sensations around the league. Ruben Bain crushed joint practice so much they didn't even need to see him in game action.
I was kind of annoyed by that.
Cassius Howell looked good for the Bengals.
He did.
And then Caden Curry looked really good for the Colts.
I will say,
in his 4th percentile arm length.
Cassius Howell looks good. However, 55, I don't think that number's doing him any favors.
Next, Keith Rivers for the Bengals.
Keith Rivers, yeah. Keith Rivers was not an edge rusher, though.
Number 59 for the Bears had the strip sack on Deshaun Watson. I thought that was Rosie Colvin.
Of course.
Rosie Colvin.
I feel like we could get Cassius Howell a better number for a
what do you think
speedy edge rusher.
Like a 31?
No.
Like David Bailey?
David Bailey has the worst edge rusher aesthetic of anybody in the history of the
game.
So
I'm torn on the David Bailey thing because I agree with that. And then you think Reggie White with no flair whatsoever.
He at least wore 92.
He did, but he had the no flair. And then, like, in a vacuum, if you saw Reggie White, you wouldn't be like, that's a good aesthetic until you see him winning, and then he makes it good.
But David
Bailey will make it one.
Yeah. This was kind of my point, is that if you're going to look like that, you had better basically be the best player in the game.
Bailey's going to
if you're going to dress like Reggie White, you would better be able to take Larry Allen one-handed and launch him into the backfield, right? And he could. So wear whatever you like, son. You know? It doesn't matter at that point. But also 92 is a proper defensive lineman's number. You're out there looking like Reggie White from a drip standpoint, and you're wearing number 31? Come on. We can't get him a better number than 31? Even if you can't convince him to put gloves on.
I know.
We can't get a better number than 31?
I'm just saying, overall, it's a banner year for the short arm guys, not David Bailey.
It is.
But Bain, I'm telling you, Bain, Howell, Caden Curry was super productive at Ohio State, and he had like 31-inch arms or whatever it was, 30-something. If they all produce, it changes how we talk about these prospects between January and April. Thankfully.
Yeah, legitimately.
Oh, he had 32-inch arms. I don't care.
What about veteran players who did not play well in preseason?
I don't know. I did not prepare for that. Do you have
Tua
names?
Tagovailoa.
Oh, yeah, that wasn't good.
Did not play well in preseason.
I think all the Falcons' vibes are not strong.
They've already presented us with one of the best memes of the season, despite being in existence for about 4 seconds. You see that? I don't know what. I don't know what he was. I don't know what the context
Michael
is.
Penix.
Yeah, but Michael Penix is basically like pointing it to his nameplate, be like, "The hell." It's just a funny meme. I don't know what he was. I don't know what the actual innocent explanation for that is, but the meme is funny.
Yeah, I don't know. No.
Because the more Tua plays, the more it's probably going to get used. You know.
Yeah, that's this guy. Heard GM Ian Cunningham a little bit on that broadcast saying, "Look, we know we had some cap restrictions. So there's some Falcons news items we should discuss. We had some cap restrictions."
Yeah.
Ian Cunningham saying this. We brought in players who maybe weren't as valued in other regimes. Guys like they bring in Zacchaeus. Did they bring him in, or did I make that up? Former Bear.
He was already there, right?
Years ago, but he was with the Bears, and
they brought him back.
I think Ian Cunningham brought him in as one of their receivers. Like, it did feel like a lot of their offseason was treading water. I didn't make that up, did I?
I don't know, because when you type in, usually you can just throw a name in there to Google and it'll give you the NFL player.
I could just pull up the depth chart.
But if you type in Zacchaeus, you get the biblical character rather than the football player, which complicates matters.
He was undersized. Anyway, he was saying that. Now, James Pierce, so you lose Jalen Walker to the ACL.
He is indeed back with the Falcons.
Right, so I got it. And James, so it was a lot of like third-tier free agent moves. You lose Jalen Walker, unfortunately, to the ACL for the season. And now James Pierce, they finally had the suspension come down, 8-game suspension for James Pierce after all the off-field
the
issues.
Absolute minimum that he deserves, frankly, but clarity and closure on what that is going to look like. So they've gone from having 2 young edge rushers who both looked pretty good as rookies to now you have one of them for half the year.
And you have Tua not necessarily looking great early on. It's just not vibes low, I would say, in Atlanta so far.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty rough for them. But yeah, Tua doesn't look good at all.
What other veteran were you trying to?
Well, that was my starting point. I was going to
okay.
see, if we had anything from that point on.
I did not have any veterans that stood out on the negative side. specifically. I do have one other. I mean, Bryce Young look a little. Yeah, I don't know.
What did you make of the Vikings not giving 9 an awful lot of playing time? That seemed curious.
They've seen enough. I don't know. I mean, I would just
seen enough.
I would just let him play.
Well, that's the thing. It's
as much as possible.
Whatever you think about his future, doesn't it? Surely he needs reps, right? Of any description.
I mean, by the way, if you're talking about preseason hype, his first game, I don't want to say it wasn't perfect. There was like 2 or 3 bad throws in there, but overall, it was like that was really good.
I mean, yeah, coming out of that game,
his
we were
preseason
saying,
debut 2 years ago.
Coming out of that game, we were talking about him winning the starting job over Sam Darnold, and then obviously he gets injured and blah blah blah. But yeah, anyway, whatever you think about his prospects or whether he should be starting or not, surely he needs reps. Like, why would you be? More to the point, what does Carson Wentz need with reps?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I would just let JJ play full games.
Yeah, the whole thing. Like, Kyler Murray can go out there, do his drive, and sit down, and then, all right, 9, take it from here.
And Wentz can be our backup.
Right.
Fine with that.
Because he doesn't need reps. It's Carson Wentz. What difference does that make?
Zach Wilson looked really good. Not ready to quit Zach Wilson.
Never. Jonathan Brooks played, too. We haven't mentioned that.
Just a few carries, but good to see him back out there.
Yep.
Not the same kind of hype that we've heard throughout minicamp and the preseason. I got one other, if you want to search for other things to discuss. One other news item / preseason takeaway for me. Dallas Cowboys. Because for the ratings, we got to talk Cowboys. Is this the year the Cowboys? I'm kidding. The Cowboys defense is a big story. I don't buy into all the preseason hype, but if there was one that intrigues me the most, the improved Cowboys defense. They've also now just added Von Miller.
Saw that.
As a pass rusher. And Von, at this point in his career, is like edge 4. Great.
Uh-huh.
Just add another body there, give him 20 snaps, and go get the quarterback. But if the Cowboys' defensive resurgence is real, and there's a little bit of, okay, they're getting healthier, there's a lot of depth on that defensive line right now. Malachi Lawrence looked pretty good in his rookie debut with his bendiness and explosiveness off the edge. If the Dallas defense is for real, changes the fortunes of the entire NFL. All of a sudden, because I'm expecting their offense to be good. If the defense is that much more improved, them and the Bengals, really. I mean, both of those defenses, but the Cowboys defense, looked pretty good the other night for whatever it's worth. They're getting good buzz in camp. They're running sprints after joint practices to show they really care. There's a lot of good stuff coming out of, I want to say Dallas, but, California.
Yeah.
But Dallas.
No, look, Von Miller for a team that already has decent defensive line depth and rotation, I think is a good signing. Like that, he can still make an impact, albeit not anything like the impact he made at his peak. It's good signing for Dallas, and that defense could be fun. Caleb Downs looked good. I mean, that's another thing we haven't really mentioned.
So, I mean, Caleb Downs will be the force multiplier at safety, which, we always say the safety doesn't make an impact unless they do, unless they are elite. So you got Caleb Downs, you got the defensive line reloaded. I don't know, man. I'm starting to buy in. I don't buy into all the preseason hype, but I'm starting to buy in that the Cowboys defense is legit.
Other general things, more high level, that we took from preseason, which honestly is possibly the more relevant stuff than individual players. How do they look? Yes or no? The Panthers were moving Tetero McMillan into the slot as soon as they went to any kind of heavier or more receiver formations. That does look like something they're going to try and do more this year, having played him outside as much as possible in his rookie season. I think they're going to try and involve him much more and move him around the formation. That would be good for him, good for them too. That's definitely a thing that's happening so far based off that performance. Omar Cooper Jr., remember there was talk that he had been losing ground in that depth chart battle with Isaiah Williams, the receiver. That manifest in that game. He was playing behind Isaiah Williams in 3 wide receiver sets. I thought he looked good, though. I thought he actually made a couple plays that were nice.
Cooper looked fine.
So
Williams has been tearing it up.
Yeah, but that, it's like, well, is that real? Is that a training camp thing? Again, seems to be real so far. This was another one of those tweets where it's like, well, yeah, Breece Hall is going to be the bell cow. They're not going to be, they paid him a ton of money. Speculation was, well, he's going to have an even more. Yeah, look, he played basically some running backs, they're mixing in as a committee. The Jets are like sequentially, like Breece Hall played all of the snaps and then Braylon Allen played all of the snaps, and then they moved to the like there. It's a hierarchy there as opposed to a committee.
All right, Braylon Allen looked good though with a 31-yard touchdown run in there.
He did, and it's kind of a shame because I think actually if they ran as more of a committee, they would have a really, really formidable backfield. If Breece Hall's really good, but I don't know if you're better off running them as a bell cow anymore.
Other takeaways as I fly around the league. Josh Allen played football.
He did.
Playing like a maniac again. Nice, goes 6 of 8 for 111, but the touchdown, it's like, I hate when people say, only one quarterback makes this play, but I mean, there's some creativity to Josh Allen rolling right, pulling back into the pocket, to make the throw and everything. I would take it easy if I'm Josh Allen in the preseason, but doing
Not the way he rolls.
Doing his normal things. It's like Joe Burrow playing flag football. You gotta save them from themselves, literally. Like, don't let him play anymore in the preseason. Keep him healthy.
They were feeding DJ Moore early though, which would be interesting.
They were.
Remember, it felt like at times Josh Allen was sort of feeding the ball to Keon Coleman to almost try and help him along. It's like we need this guy. The only way of getting him to where we need him to be is for me to basically give him the ball even when he's not open. I'm targeting him, right? It felt like they were really consciously being like, DJ Moore needs to be an important part of this offense that's getting the ball.
I'll also highlight...
He got a little bit nicked up, I think, as well, DJ Moore, coming off the back of that. I think.
Yes, he did. He also was like in the open field giving one of these. Yeah. Somebody on the Panthers like, I'm just going to lower my shoulder. Let's go. Let's feel some hits here.
We saw a ton more under center league-wide. The Bengals in particular have been talked about as shifting to a lot more of that type of stuff. Their first drive was basically all under center.
I am amazed that, imagine 10 years ago telling someone, hey, the cheat code in 2026, you're not going to believe it. You're going to get under center, and you're going to run play action. And people are acting like this is some new voodoo that, the league was founded on for the first 110 years.
Yeah. It's like the classic play that you think of. It's still what's in your mind as a picture of, the drop back from center.
100 years of this. All of a sudden, offense is going to explode.
Peyton Manning with the, over-accentuated handoff.
Now that we're under center, offenses are going to explode. And every fan base is like, man, finally, we're under center, play action. It's going to solve everything. It's just a fascinating time. One more thing on the Bills, too. I didn't look into this specifically, but Cover One does a really good job covering the Bills site. They have some astute analysts there. Anthony Cover One, who was on Mina's show recently. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was his last name. I thought his name was Anthony Cover One. Yeah. It's not really.
No.
But he gets into the X's and O's detail with the Bills pretty well. He was impressed by the back-end communication, first look at Jim Leonard's defense with a lot of the backup, second and third stringers. It's something to keep an eye on because to me, the Bills have a lot of questions in the back seven. Not so much at corner, but, a little bit with Maxwell Hairston, some turnover at linebacker, turnover at safety. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was supposed to come in and bring a veteran presence. He's out for the season. But if they're, passing things off, communicating well early in the season, just something to keep an eye on. And those are the types of things McDermott's defense might do well for most of the season until they ran into the playoffs. And so Leonard adding, coming over from Denver, that dude's been talked about as a hot defensive coordinator for a long time. And now he gets a shot in a bit of a pressure cooker, right? Where Buffalo's got high expectations. Anything less than a Super Bowl appearance is, you're asking questions once again. But that was something that caught my eye this week as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of fun coordinators like that who are guys that have been talked up for a long time and are not getting opportunities. Obviously, him on that side. David Blau in Washington, seeing what that's going to be is going to be pretty interesting.
Philadelphia's new offense.
Yeah.
Granted, you don't have Jalen Hurts and the starters out there or anything, but they were 1.3 million and outs and barely moved the ball, scored a late touchdown to avoid the shutout. Not the best performance right off the bat for the new offense. I don't know if it means anything, but, maybe something there.
Time to panic.
Steve Bisciotti's draft pick, Adam Randall, goes 12 carries for 46 yards and a score.
It felt like I think we're going to see a ton more. I mean, going along with this under center stuff, we're going to see a ton more fullbacks this year as well. Remember the fullback position had been dying off for years to the point where there's only a few teams that were using them at all. based off this week. Like, there were multiple fullbacks that saw a lot of snaps.
Well, one of the things that this was over 10 years ago. I remember, I think it may have been Florida. It may have been Will Muschamp when he was at Florida. And he was like, with all the kids playing, all the little kids playing 7-on-7, and just the ebbs and flows of football sometimes start in high school. So high school started running spread offenses about 15 years ago, 20 years ago, more commonly. It started to trickle up to colleges more and more, and then it trickled up to the NFL. So the NFL has been a single back league for the last 10 to 15 years, far more single back than two back. So then all the players who are in the NFL currently, played high school, played college, they haven't seen two backs in the backfield very often. And so Muschamp, I think it was, that said this when he was at Florida, was like, these guys, the kids don't know how to fit the run against power.
None of these
or against
guys,
two-back power.
Yeah, none of these guys have ever experienced Lorenzo Neal lead blocking through the hole and have any idea what to do with that.
Forget the physicality. They don't even know. Like, they're just not used to seeing the run fits, right? They're not used to playing with 7 in the box. They're used to playing with 6 in the box, right? They're not used to taking on a fullback. It's different. And so when you talk about the ebbs and flows of football, I don't think it's as simple as, well, the run game is going to come back and the pass game won't be as valuable. It's like, well, I don't think that'll happen because all the rules are still centered around the pass. But there is something to how players have been taught and what they're used to seeing through the years and doing the opposite, and giving defenses different looks. And there might be something to that. So more fullbacks. And again, it does allow you to run the ball, as every NFL team wants to have a lighter box now defensively. You want to defend the run with 6. Well, it's really hard to defend the run with 6 when you have a fullback in there. You will start losing the math, and so that's the cat and mouse game. How do you get them to load up the box once again so we can open up the pass game?
Which, I mean, this was always, speculated. When would this happen? The schemes are cyclical. It comes and goes. Like, when are we going to pivot back towards some kind of power? I mean, it feels like it's happening now. And your point is good that simply they haven't learned it. It's not instinctive for them in terms of where or how to do it. But there is also the physical element. These guys have been getting smaller and smaller. So even if they played that style, knew how to do it, and were prepared to do it, you're still giving up size compared with old school linebackers. I mean, we talked before, the actual old school linebacker body shape, right? Jeremiyah Trotter, right? These guys, they're 260-pound off-the-ball linebackers. I mean, a 260-pound is a big defensive end now, let alone an off-the-ball linebacker. So you are giving away a ton of size that you weren't before. But also, like, imagine one of these 225-pound linebackers trying to meet a guy like Lorenzo Neal in the hole. That guy's getting obliterated because it's just physics of it. Now, like, if you can find a fullback like that, now Lorenzo Neal's like a Hall of Fame caliber fullback, so you're not finding one of those. But like the Chargers using Scott Matlock, who's like a defensive tackle, right? If that dude figures out how to block a little bit, and suddenly you've got a 225-pound linebacker trying to meet a 300-pound defensive tackle in the hole, it's not going well for you in terms of winning the contact.
I'll tell you my note, watching Alvar Reese this week, though, is that he could have played linebacker in the 80s, in the 90s for the Giants. He's ready for it.
But that's where it's fun.
And you talk about linebackers going 5th overall. Maybe it becomes more valuable now with the NFL trying to have two backs in the backfield more often.
But that's where it's fun. Like, maybe you can't find a guy like Lorenzo Neal for the same reasons that you can't find the linebackers, because nobody's been doing it all the way through high school, college, the NFL. You're not going to find a guy that's just that proficient as a fullback. But maybe the workaround is, well, what if we just take a defensive tackle, plug him into that role, and then, okay, he's not as good of a blocker. On the other hand, he's 50 pounds heavier, so maybe it wins that way, right? And suddenly you've got Matlock, you've got Patrick Ricard. And again, this sequence of 225-pound linebackers has got to figure out how to win a contact against a guy that outweighs them by 50, 70 pounds.
That's why, like, Kyle Juszczyk was such a weapon for the Niners through the years. I mean, he was weapon number 6 on the offense, but he was still a weapon, because if you were a team, this is the fun part about the NFL and why doing the copycat thing doesn't actually make sense. If no one in the NFL is using a fullback and you get your choice of the 3 best fullbacks in the world, you suddenly have an advantage. Like, there's still some skill set out there where a guy can play fullback and you have an advantage. That's why every team trying to get 12 and 13 personnel and, loading up on tight ends. Well, at some point we'll run into a scarcity issue. And all of a sudden, okay, the teams that have 11 personnel and have 3 wide receivers, do they have the advantage again because they have better receivers? So you can't just always copy. Anyway, good stuff, man. It's fun to have a full weekend.
I'm here for all the 300-pound fullbacks.
I'm with you. I was always interested in when teams do that at the goal line. Is it really an advantage or not? Like having Vita Vea, like is he actually that much better than just getting the next Lorenzo Neal, or is it just save a roster spot?
I always felt like I always felt like those guys were. I think that the approach was wrong, right? So you get a guy like a Vita Vea or whatever monstrous defensive tackle you want to put there, but then you ask him to sort of try and execute a block. I would tell him, pretend you're the running back without the football and just launch yourself through a gap, and I'll follow, right?
I'm coming over the top.
Yeah. Like if you tell Vita Vea to pick a soft shoulder and just launch himself through it, you're telling me that's not going to create a hole. I don't want him hands inside, grab the chest plate, try and move the dude. Pick the biggest gap you can see and just launch yourself through it. And I, as the running back, will follow behind and assume that there's a space that's been made.
Yeah, asking the defense, like teaching Jeffrey Simmons and Vita Vea and those guys to block on the move.
This doesn't seem, I don't think that helps. I think all you do is basically, you just take a guy who can't really block and have him slow up at the line of scrimmage. I would just tell him to pick the gap that looks most likely to you and launch yourself through it. Pretend there's a quarterback on the other side of that line and go get him.
Yeah. We extracted a lot from preseason week 1. We'll do it again this week. Preseason week 3, I always think week 3 is going to be the worst, and they started to throw starters out there a bit more than I expected last year. I thought we were going to see all backups. So we got 2 more weeks of preseason. They have a full 2 weeks or so off, or like a week and a half off before we start the regular season. We'll have roster reactions and everything. Anyway, we're back to 3 days a week. We'll be back on Wednesday and Thursday, 9 a.m., with more great stuff this week. Kelly's still pregnant. She's unhappy about that. She's ready to have her baby, our baby. So I told her to maybe go into labor on the show for the content. I have not gotten a call. Did I miss anything? No, we're good. So we'll see. We got Renner in the bullpen ready just in case.
Yeah.
Warming up if I need a backup for a little bit here. But we'll see. As of now, Wednesday at 9.
Okay.
All right. Sound good? That's it for us today. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll see you again Wednesday. More Check the Mic.